Hello, Voices of Wrestling listener. Dave Ryan here. Have you ever wondered to yourself how many hidden gems are hidden away inside the last years of World Championship Wrestling? Have you ever asked yourself how many tenuous gags can be made about the name Mike Enos? And have you ever thought about what it sounds like for two Irishmen to interpret a very chaotic company through its B show? The answers to all this and more are just a click away. Check out Days of Thunder every second Thursday on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.
Cheering at pro wrestling shows in Japan is back, and 2023 is already shaping up to be a big year in the history of pro res. That's why you should listen to the Emerald Flow Show. From the Royal Road to the Green Mat, Paul and Gerard take you into the world of All Japan Pro Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Noah. Not only do we analyze events, but we examine business, who is getting over, what angles are working or not. Occasionally, we take a look at other Japanese promotions like DDT and Zero One. So if you're looking for more coverage of the world of Japanese wrestling, check out the Emerald Flow Show on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, available on all of your favorite podcast apps.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
What do you guys want to talk about?
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
So no, I'm not taking it. Listen, I am more than happy to be the butt of a joke or to be self-deprecating. I think everybody knows that. They've been listening for 10 years, okay? Not on this one, because I am not taking an L on this, okay? So no, this one, I'm not taking this L, okay?
Rich Frage.
So are you ready for Roadblock End of the Line?
Roadblock, end of the line.
Roadblock End of the Line.
Roadblock, end of the line.
Roadblock End of the Line.
Roadblock, end of the line.
Roadblock End of the Line.
Roadblock, end of the line. Roadblock, end of the line. Roadblock, end of the line. Roadblock, end of the line.
Roadblock End of the Line. Roadblock End of the Line. Roadblock End of the Line. Roadblock End of the Line. Roadblock End of the Line. Roadblock End of the Line. Roadblock End of the Line. Roadblock End of the Line. Roadblock End of the Line.
Roadblock, end of the line. Roadblock, end of the line seems to have some buzz. There's a lot of buzz for Roadblock, end of the line.
It really does.
And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening? How are you?
How are you? Decided to come back to work.
I decided to come back to work. Yeah, you already made that slight towards me at on our Instant Reaction Live for AEW Wrestle Dream. But now I officially came back to work here with the Flagship this week. So glad to be back.
No, I'm setting it up for you to plug the Instant Reaction Live.
Absolutely. Great Instant Reaction Live of AEW Wrestle Dream back in the good old days. Remember when AEW was good 4 days ago? That was a lot of fun. But that Instant Reaction Live we did immediately after AEW Wrestle Dream. So if you are listening to this show thinking, oh man, I can't wait to see what those guys think about AEW Wrestle Dream. Well, we already did that for about 2.5 hours or so. Very long, as usual, Instant Reaction Live done on Sunday after the show. So you can listen to that on our $10 tier over at flagshippatreon.com is where you can get all of that. And Patreon rolled out a new layout and stuff too. So looking all spiffy. It's got a weird logo now, but hey, you know what? Otherwise it looks pretty good.
Yeah, and they've got some new features. I know this is going to sound like a commercial, but I really didn't plan on talking about this.
Right out of the gates too. but why not? Hey, we're here. Why not? Fuck it. Let's do it live.
They added that, what is it called? Collections?
Collections. Yeah. Great new feature.
All right. So it's never been easier to specifically find the shit, the content that you're looking for, instead of trying to hunt down tags or scroll through all of the posts. If you want to say, just go back and find an old TV review, or you want to just start listening to November to Remember, or do one of the series, or find all of the deep dives that we've done, it's never been easier, because if you go on the front page now, and I think they've really set this up very nicely, especially on the app. I don't know about desktop.
Yeah, the desktop is not as obvious because you have a few other tabs there, but man, on the app, it's like home and it's collections, and it's like, whoa, all right, that's perfect.
Yeah. And Rich put a lot of work into it. He already set up folders for basically, most of the series that we've done. All the instant reaction lives, but anyway, you find what you're looking for and you click it, and it's all right there, and it's all chronological. And again, you don't have to hunt around for tags, or if you want to find something. and it's really useful, especially if you just want to jump in and subscribe for a month or something because you want to listen to a series or go back and read some things or listen to some old shows. They're super easy to find now with that, especially on the app. Desktop, you still got to fumble around a little bit.
A little bit, yeah, but it's there. There's a tab called Collections. It's just a little bit tougher to find. And one of the
it's right there. I see it now.
Yeah,
it's right
not
on the
bad.
front page.
I mean, it's not as obvious as on the app, but it's definitely there. And I will say one thing that is awesome about that is that you don't have to subscribe to look at the collections. You can just you don't have to be a subscriber. You don't have to have ever been a subscriber to see what we have, which I think is a really, really cool feature. And I'm glad that they added that so that if you're like, yeah, you know what, I can't subscribe this month, or, hey, I fell off, I want to just see what these guys are up to. What have they posted lately? What are new series? All that sort of stuff. You're going to be able to go there and browse and say, all right, yeah, maybe there's something there that I like or whatever. But yeah, it doesn't force you to subscribe to figure out what new content we have or whatever, which was kind of the case before. Whereas now you can just say, oh, you know what? Hey, they did this, they did that. Or you scroll and you find something and you go, hey, this looks kind of cool. I want to listen to this series. It's never been easier to find these series on any of the content we've done over the many, many years now. Geez, we started this thing in late 2018, I want to say, maybe late. It couldn't have been late 2017. I have to go back. It's been quite a while that we've been doing that.
It was the end of 2017.
End of 2017. Whew, boy, wow. Okay.
I'm just looking at these collections you've put together. So, it's just, you don't realize how much content that we've produced. I mean, I'm not going to go through all of them, but for instance, there's 62 instant reaction lives. I would have taken the under. I would have done nothing. I've done 299 TV reviews, and that's assuming you've culled all of them.
I may have missed a couple. I think I got them all, but yeah, I may have possibly missed a couple.
The 106 match of the weeks, 22 Jovember to Remembers. I know people think there should be a lot more by now. I'm getting to it, right? There's this is crazy. 112 G1 reviews. 112 G1 reviews. So, and everything is all, the Kings of the Tokyo Dome, 24 episodes of that. You even put together all of the breaking news and everything, so everyone can go back and see all of my lucky guessing that has come through over the years.
Lands of fanfic that has come true.
Yeah, 28 Observer Hall of Fame shows with all of those guests that we've had on over the years. 35 overruns to this flagship podcast. So that, and there's just dozens and dozens of different series and collections on there that, like you're saying, people can look at for free. They you don't have to be a subscriber to browse through and look at all that. And I think it's one of the best features they've ever rolled out, because I think it makes it a lot easier for people to commit. People who don't want to stay subscribed, but they're interested in something, but it's like intimidating because we have thousands of posts. So now it's like, oh, all right, I really like this match of the week gimmick they do. I want to read all of them, but then I got to hunt for them all. No, now they're right there in a folder on the front page, and you can subscribe for a month and read all the match of the week write-ups or whatever it is that you want to consume content-wise, and then bounce and get out. So that's something that I think everybody should check out if they've been on the fence or if they're an in-and-out subscriber. It's a really good new feature. I promise to God I wasn't planning on doing this commercial in the first 5 minutes of the show. It came up organically with the instant reaction live to the Wrestle Dream show.
But that is up there, as well as all those other things. So yeah, sorry for the commercial to start the show, but flagship patreon.com/voices of wrestling.
Well, when's the next AEW pay-per-view? When's this
full gear? That is going to be November. What is that? November 16. What is that? November 18. November 18.
All right. So next month. So I know a lot of people like to come in for the instant reaction lives. So these AEW pay-per-views, they come fast and furious now. So you may as well just stay subscribed. So, and who knows when else we're going to pop in with something. But there you go, an ad right off the bat.
Right, you probably got a pre-roll ad too that was inserted by our podcast provider.
That's right.
Then you get us playing a 1:30 intro, and then me asking how you're doing, and then another 5-minute ad. But if you're hanging around, hey, thank you. We appreciate you for hanging around. And now we're going to talk about some professional wrestling here. We got a lot to cover this week. A big week in wrestling coming up And hey, this weekend, a ton of stuff. Next week, a ton of stuff. It never stops in the world of wrestling. It is always ongoing here. We have next week the AEW versus NXT head-to-head Tuesday Night Wars, Super Tuesday, whatever you want to call it. We'll talk about the lineups thus far and what's been announced for NXT, what's been announced for AEW, what they're countering with their title Tuesday, as well as some big picture thoughts about AEW after a very, very momentous, noteworthy, I don't know what you want to call this week's episode of Dynamite, but one that we definitely have to talk about. I know that you obviously did the Thursday TV reviews, Thursday Dynamite reviews on our Patreon, but I have some thoughts about this week's TV as well, so I gotta butt in there for a little bit. So we'll do that. NXT No Mercy, they had a premium live event, No Mercy, on Saturday, so we'll talk about that show that we watched. Roadblock End of the Line, another PLE from the World Wrestling Entertainment Company. We'll talk about that show coming up this weekend. New Japan has a Destruction show in Sumo Hall this weekend, big-time show. Sonata versus Evil on top, but some other pretty interesting stuff throughout the card, so we'll touch on that. And then if we get some time, Impact's Bound for Glory, which is not for another weekend, but I think they have a very interesting pay-per-view lineup and some pretty interesting matches announced thus far for that show, which I am planning on attending. So if we get time, we'll do that. If not, we can just wait till next week. But I had an idea just to, give a little bit of credit to Impact for, I think, booking a very, very interesting Bound for Glory show. And maybe some other stuff as well. I know I've watched some CMLL as of late. I caught up a little bit on that. I watched the Stardom Grand Prix, 5-star Grand Prix finals as well. So maybe we'll get to a little bit of that stuff if we have time. But let's start the show off with a wrestling death that we touched on a little bit during Instant Reaction Live, but I think we have a little bit more thoughts about it, and it's probably a better platform to do it here on the Flagship as opposed to on the, AEW Wrestle Dream Instant Reaction Live. But that's Russ Francis, who passed away on Sunday, correct? He passed away before he went live on the Instant Reaction Live. Passed away from a plane crash. A guy who has more of an NFL history than a wrestling history, but does have an extensive wrestling history as well. And we, again, touched a little bit on it during the Instant Reaction Live, but I think we wanted to give some bigger thoughts about Ed Francis. And then, just maybe in general, the NWA Hawaii territory, or 50th state big time wrestling, or whatever name you know it by, had a pretty, I think it's been kind of lost to time a little bit, and I think we're going to try to maybe correct that a little bit here, but was an immensely important territory for a number of years, decades, in fact. NWA Hawaii, big time wrestling, whatever you want to call it. But anything else on Russ Francis you want to touch on before we get to our other kind of more current topics right now?
I'm just not sure. I mean, Russ Francis is obviously way more famous for being an NFL player and an a Pro Bowl tight end for the New England Patriots and later San Francisco 49ers. Won a Super Bowl on the 84 San Francisco 49er team where he was the starting tight end. He just missed winning 3 other Super Bowls because he was with the Patriots from 75 to 80. And then he got into a contract dispute with the Patriots and he quit football for the 81 season and got talked back into coming back into the NFL by Bill Walsh, who was the head coach of the 49ers at the time. And the 49ers traded for his rights and he sat out the 81 season and he came back in 82. The 49ers won the Super Bowl in 81. So he just missed out on winning the Super Bowl in 81. He was on the team that won it in 84. And then he got traded at the tail end of the 1987 season back to the Patriots. And then the 49ers won Super Bowls in 88 and 89.
Yeah. Damn.
So it's kind of like the Don Mattingly effect, right? Like Don, the year before he gets there, the Yankees are, and then the year after he leaves, they finally win the World Series
right.
again.
Yeah, 96, they finally do it.
There's a lot of players like that, you know, and it's like, but Francis at least had he got one in 84. And was part of those great 49er teams with Joe Montana. And then, of course, later on, I think he played with Jerry Rice in the back end of his 49er tenure and did win the Super Bowl in 84. But he was a Pro Bowl level. He was a great tight end. I mean, he was known as one of the better tight ends in the league, especially his years with the Patriots in the late 70s. But he also had a pro wrestling career. And I think for a lot of people, they might only know him from the WrestleMania 2 Battle Royal, which there's an easy explanation for that. He predominantly wrestled in Hawaii for his father, Ed Francis. And there's really not a ton of Hawaii footage floating around out there. you know, and a lot of the Hawaii footage that is out is footage from later on when the Maiaveas owned the territory. It's not necessarily the footage when Ed Francis and Lord James Blears owned the territory. And, you know, Russ Francis did wrestle in some other places, the AWA. He would wrestle during the offseason, you know, kind of like the NFL players from the generation before him, whether it was Leo Namalini or, you know, you go right down the line, Ernie Ladd, you know, guys that would be professional football players during the fall. Oh, yeah, if you want to go back, to like the 20s and 30s. Yeah, you know, so, and that kind of slowed down, but, you know, as he got into the 80s, when the money got bigger, in pro football, less pro football players felt compelled to do pro wrestling in the offseason. Right.
Or we're told not to, you know, even if they wanted to, I'm sure. Yeah. We're paying you X amount of money not to go or get hurt playing doing pro wrestling. No, you're our property. And no, off season, you're going to chill or you're going to come to practice. You're going to do that sort of stuff. But yeah, 60s, 70s, 50s, 40s, I mean, that a whole different animal for professional football at that time.
Yeah. So it was either go sell cars or sell vacuums door to door or go do pro wrestling during the off season to make ends meet because the money wasn't great. But he was one of the last generation of guys who would wrestle during the football off seasons. And, you know, so he'd pop in to his father's territory or the AWA or St. Louis or Portland. Those are predominantly the places that he worked and would wrestle during the off seasons, you know, for his dad. And his brother was a full-time wrestler in the Hawaii territory, Bill Francis. And Ed Francis actually bought the territory in, I want to say 1961.
Let me, I'm actually looking at the page now, so give me 1 minute. 61, exactly. You were on it.
Yeah, so Ed Francis, along with Lord James Blears, his business partner, they bought the rights to the Hawaii territory from Al Karasik, who had the rights to the territory. Francis was a wrestler. He wrestled for Karasik, but Francis and Blears bought the rights from Karasik and became the NWA promoters in Hawaii in 1961. And that would have been when Russ and Billy Francis were children, right? Because Russ Francis was born in 1953. Yeah, so they still would have been
very, very
young children at that point, growing up in Hawaii.
My favorite, not to butt in real quick, but Karasik, my favorite story about him, I'm actually going back and reading Tim Hornbaker's great book about the National Wrestling Alliance. I was doing that on my vacation because that's what I do on vacations is read very lengthy books about the history of the National Wrestling Alliance. And it came up, Karasik and Ed Francis. And before Karasik sold the territory to gentleman Ed Francis, Karasik was lobbying Sam Muchnick, who at that point was the NWA president, to have Japan be his territory because he was running in Hawaii. And they were like, no.
The entire nation of Japan.
Right. I'm pretty close, so I might as well get Japan as my territory. And they were like, no. You could have Hawaii. That's more than enough, sir. You don't need to get all of another country and half of an ocean or whatever. No, we're not going to give you all of Japan too. So I enjoyed that. But that was the popular spot for many, many years for guys traveling to and from Japan was, you know, pop on over to Hawaii, do a couple shots there, or hell, you just want to go to Hawaii, so you fucking get booked in Hawaii for a run for a couple of months or whatever. Luthez very famously would just take Hawaiian vacations and go wrestle and make a ton of money. Can't beat that.
Bockwinkel would do it all the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys, they'd use it as the working vacation.
Of course.
Yeah, it was a very unique territory in that way because, you know, they had their crew of locals, of course, but they always had the ability to have big stars come in because, again, like you just said, why wouldn't you want to go hang out in Hawaii for a couple weeks with your family and then make a couple bucks to pay for the vacation while you're there, you know? And like you also mentioned, you know, going back and forth from Japan, the guys that were getting booked in Japan, they'd stop over in Hawaii, they'd work a date, work a big main event, then go to Japan, then on the way back, stop back in Hawaii again, work another big date, you know? And so it was a very unique territory from that standpoint. And also over the years, they had all of the different world champions come in. I know in the early years, they used Fred Blassie a lot, who was the Los Angeles version of the world champion, who would come in and the easy flight from LA, the old WWA promotion or whatever it was called in LA at the time. And then obviously the NWA, they were NWA affiliated. And then later on, they did a lot of business with Vern Gagne, and Nick Bockwinkel would come in all the time and defend the AWA world title in Hawaii. So it was a very unique territory from that standpoint. And what was also interesting is almost immediately they found themselves in a promotional war, because in 62 or 63, because Francis ran his territory. His big building was the Civic Auditorium, and they ran weekly. And that building held 4,000 or 5,000 fans, and they ran weekly shows at the Civic Auditorium. And that's also, where they would tape their TV. And then the bigger Honolulu International Center opened in 63 or 64, the HIC. And that was a much bigger building. It held almost 9,000 fans. So it was owned by the city of Honolulu, and they weren't respecting any of the old rules, the city of Honolulu, for this new building. So Francis couldn't get in the building, but Dallas Western of the Aloha Promotions, he cut a deal with the city of Honolulu to run monthly shows at the HIC. And now at that point, Francis found himself in a promotional war, because this guy was flying in, Aloha Promotions was flying in all these huge stars for these big monthly shows at the HIC, and they had the bigger building. So they would, and what it actually did is it actually sparked business, and it created kind of a mini boom in Hawaii, with both of the groups having TV and competing against each other, and both of the promotions bringing in all these huge stars from the mainland United States, and they were running head to head often on the same night. And, a good example of that was on July 28th, 64, the competing promotion filled up the HIC with 8,700 fans, and Francis filled up his building with 5,300 fans. And then he ran back to back, and then Francis ran the next night as well, and it had to sell out the next night too. So the promotional war almost was a good thing at the start, because it really created sort of a wrestling boom for a couple of months there in Hawaii. And but as these things go, eventually it starts to wear down, and it's unsustainable to have two major territories running in such a small state.
Yeah.
So Francis actually lucked out, though, because in early 1965, the new promotion got into some trouble. They had some lawsuits, and there was some funny money with the payments to the talent agency he was using to fly in the wrestlers. And the lawsuits, combined with the cost of having to fly in these big stars to compete with Ed Francis' promotion, they folded. So they only lasted about a year or so. And then Ed Francis was able to get into the HIC with these guys out of the picture. So then what he was doing from there is he was running his regular weekly shows at the Civic, and then building to the much bigger monthly shows at the HIC, which had now been established by the previous promoter. But now Francis was able to get in the building when those guys folded. So his first card in the bigger building, he brought in Giant Baba. And the main event was Giant Baba versus Curtis Iukea. And, he brought in Fred Blassie, who I just mentioned him, Leo Namalini. It was Fred Blassie versus Leo Namalini on that show. And that was Ed Francis' first big monthly card at the HIC. So he would run his regular weekly shows at the Civic. And they had a whole loop, too. It wasn't just, they ran shows at Pearl Harbor and some of the other Army bases as well. So you'd run weekly at the Civic. I forget which day of the week it was, maybe Saturdays. And then they would, they'd have a loop on some of the other islands as well. And now with that other promotion out of the way, they were running the big monthly shows with all the huge stars once a month at the HIC. But that went on for a couple of years where they were running it that way. And I guess from there, it was what happened was what changed things was the Civic Arena was being closed down because it was sold to a bank. And I think they wanted to rip it down and build a bank building on the property or something like that. So they no longer had the weekly shows at the Civic. That was probably I'm trying to look it up frantically. It was probably in 71 or 72 when they lost the weekly shows at the Civic Auditorium. Yeah, 1972 is when the last card at the Civic Auditorium, March of 72. So the territory kind of slowed to a crawl because without the weekly shows, Francis couldn't really afford to keep that crew of regulars and give them regular work, right? So what he was doing was just running monthly at the HIC with all of the big stars. But see, the weekly shows and the weekly loop is what was financially supporting bringing in the bigger stars for the show. So it really slowed to a crawl. And by 74, Francis basically stopped promoting. You know, he gave it up because it was no longer financially viable to attempt to run these huge monthly shows because you needed the big stars to fill a building of that size, but he couldn't afford, those aren't cheap flights. So, and the HIC, the problem too was the big building. They didn't want wrestling there weekly. They would only allow the wrestling show to come in once a month. So that wasn't really an option. So things really slowed to a crawl. And I think Blears may have kept promoting shows sporadically at the HIC, but Francis was out. He was like, this is no longer a sustainable business. And he stopped promoting shows for a number of years. He brought it back, the weekly format, in and this is where Russ Francis comes in. So around 77, I think it was 77, they bring back the weekly wrestling at the Block Arena in that was I believe in Pearl Harbor, the Block Arena, and then continuing the monthly cards at the HIC. So it took them a couple years, I guess, to find another place to run the weekly shows. In the Block Arena at one point had been one of the regular stops on the loop, but Ed Francis got back in the game in 77 with a huge card at the HIC. Big time wrestling returns, and if you look at the poster, he billed Andre the Giant making his first ever appearance in Hawaii, which obviously was a big deal. The number 2 person bill, the second billing on that poster, Russ Francis, tight end of the New England Patriots, because this was in 1977, right in the middle of Russ Francis' best run in the NFL. So, his son, who had been a part-timer, but now was a big NFL star, here we are, Ed Francis coming back to promote pro wrestling, first big show in 3 years in the biggest building in the state. And who's he putting on the poster? Andre the Giant and Russ Francis.
Yeah. And note there, Billy White Wolf listed as well, a guy we talked about a couple weeks ago. Shika and Casey.
Are you looking at the poster?
I'm looking at I just linked in the chat room as well. For anybody who's listening live, you got the poster sent to you as well. So you got Andre holding all the women to that very iconic photo of Andre the Giant, the 8th wonder in the world, in his first appearance in Hawaii. 6 big matches plus a Texas Battle Royal. And then, like you said, right underneath Andre the Giant is Russ Francis, tight end of the New England Patriots.
Yeah, they brought Giant Baba in for that show, Gene Kiniski.
I love listing the weights and then saying nearly 5,000 pounds in the ring. It's all about the weights, the girth of these men. Come watch these girthy men wrestle. I love that.
Yeah. So, and that's when Russ Francis really won, I think, the only title of his pro wrestling career, because he won the tag team titles with his brother Bill. With Bill Francis in 1978 during sort of that, what I guess you would call it, the second run of Ed Francis running wrestling in Hawaii, which only lasted a couple of years because, by 1979, things were starting to change and he saw the writing on the wall and he sold his portion of the territory to Steve Ricard, the NWA promoter in New Zealand, who, this is 1979. I'm still talking about Steve Ricard on November to Remember in 1993. He was still on the NWA board then. That guy was one of the last holdouts.
Yeah, we talked about him in the deep dive, talking about the NWA thing, where they still were. That guy was still being counted on for votes, and he was, not able to get over to America to do votes that often anymore, and whatnot. But yeah, he lasted forever, and we've talked about him a lot during Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame season. You talked about that a little bit earlier in the show, Hall of Fame season. We always talked about Steve Ricard because he's a guy who was just around forever. So it's like, well, you gotta You got to give the guy some credit for like similar to you know other guys who just outlasted everybody and just hung around for as long as possible. It's like, I don't know if they have Hall of Fame cases necessarily, but there's got to be something too, just hanging around when everybody else died, everybody else went away, everybody else packed in or sold out or whatever, and this guy's still going strong into the into the mid 90s.
I just don't think that the Block Arena era was the same as the Civic Auditorium era, and Francis didn't hold on much longer after that. And he just gave up the ghost and he sold it to Ricard. And a lot of people think they remember it as him selling it directly to the Mayaveas, but that wasn't the case. No. He sold it to Ricard first. Now, Ricard kept Lord James Blears around as the booker. And I assume he was still a business partner as well. And, and then he ran it for about a year, and then he sold it to Peter Maivia. And then Peter Maivia took it over and changed the name, and then it became Polynesian Pro and all that. Or it may have become Polynesian Pro later, because Peter Maivia died a couple years later of cancer. And then, as most people probably know, that Leah Maivia, his wife, The Rock's grandmother, took it over, and she ran it, until the end of the 80s, when you just had to shut it down, because by 1989, forget it, you couldn't really run the territory anymore. So, but she ran it from 82 to 89. And by that point, it absolutely, it was no longer an NWA territory. It was called Polynesian Pro. That's a lot of the footage that you'll find out there is from that era of Hawaii wrestling.
Right. If you look up Hawaii wrestling or whatever, you'll get a lot of Polynesian Pro. You get a little bit. There's a very little amount of that, like, true NWA Hollywood out there. I know I was trying to look over the weekend, and it was very hard to find really anything from them. But
you're still going to get a lot of the same. You're going to get a lot of Ripper Collins. You're going to get a lot of the same guys who worked for Francis, a lot of guys who lived in Hawaii, of course, and you're going to get early Don Morocco. Don Morocco, by the way, went to high school with Russ and Bill Francis.
That's a hell of a high school, man. Had some girth in that high school. Let me tell you that.
Yeah, so they knew Don Morocco as kids and grew up with Don Morocco. And then Don Morocco ended up getting into pro wrestling as well. There's a lot of Ricky and Rocky Johnson.
Yes, Johnson. Most of what I've been able to find or what I've been watching, there's a video that's up on YouTube. It's about 3 hours, and it's called "The Best of NWA Hollywood" or NWA Hawaii. And there's a lot of Rocky Johnson on there. I know there's some Bruiser Brody as well that I'm actually watching as we speak on the TV next to me. So the McGuire twins are there a couple times as well, in this video. But yeah, it's a 3 hour long video. That might be honestly it. That might be all of it, because every other video that I've seen is all Polynesian Pro. So that might be it. Maybe you can find some other stuff if you're bouncing around, but it's very, very, very small amount of tape that's out there.
I was looking for Russ and Bill Francis stuff this week, and a lot of it is just like reels, like ripped off of like 8mm reels or whatever.
Yeah, it's when you're going there, it's not great. Yeah, you're not getting a whole lot
and it's you're not getting full matches or anything like that, and it's just all that stuff was on TV throughout the 60s and 70s, but it's like a lot of other territories. The original tapes are probably long gone, or they taped over them, or plus it's Hawaii, and there's probably some barriers there. So I don't know. A lot of the stuff from the Francis era is just, it's very, very, very hard to find. But as far as Russ Francis goes, he won the tag team titles with his brother in 1978, sort of at the end of his father's run running the territory. But he would come to the United States all through the mid 70s during the off seasons to wrestle for the AWA, St. Louis. Portland was a big stop. Plus Russ Francis went to college in Oregon. So there were connections there as well. He would get booked in Portland just based on the fact that he was a college football player in Oregon and trying to capitalize off of whatever that fame was worth at the time. And then he didn't wrestle for a long time until the WrestleMania 2 Battle Royal in '86. But, I heard Dave Meltzer saying that, Sam Mushnick once told him in the 70s that when he was ready to go pro wrestling full time, that he was someone who he thought could be an NWA world champion, because he was 6'5", he was super athletic, he was handsome, he was a good enough wrestler, and if he devoted himself full time to pro wrestling, he was a potential NWA world champion. And it's tricky because it's hard to find footage of him when he was in his 20s, and so it's hard to really quantify. But if Sam Mushnick thought he, was that good, then, and he was the guy pulling all the strings during that era, then you have to assume that that there was some truth to it. But he'd go to Minnesota in the off seasons and wrestle for Vern Gagne. And then, of course, after taking all that time off, as we got into the 80s and it was no longer viable to wrestle in the off season, he didn't wrestle for a long time, especially with his father out of the game in Hawaii. And I think Bill Francis retired too, briefly, or at least for a few years, when his father got out of the wrestling business. And then Bill Francis came back, though, in the late 80s to work for the AWA. No, he worked in Portland, Bill Francis.
Yeah, Russ was a lot of AWA.
In fact, I just watched a Bill Francis match today against Beetlejuice Art Bar.
Wow.
From Portland TV in 1990 with Scotty the Body on commentary. Scott Levy, a.k.a. Raven. And
was he 14 when he was doing commentary for that show? Jesus Christ, how young was he?
No, 1990.
Oh, 1990. Okay, well, that's still pretty damn young at that point, but yeah, maybe not 14.
Who, for Raven?
Raven,
yeah, he would have been in his early 20s or something like that, yeah. But I mean, because he was in WCW by 91.
Right.
So, as Scotty Flamingo, which was the same gimmick as Scotty the Body, they just gave him the Scotty Flamingo name. But Bill Francis by then was very clearly older. He had a big bald spot on the back of his head that Scotty the Body was making fun of, and went to a time limit draw with Beetlejuice. It was a really weird match. But in the dying days of Portland, Portland probably
Bill saw that guy, that little Art Bar, standing next to him, and was like, "I ain't jobbing to this motherfucker. Get out of here."
Listen, this match is on YouTube. You should see the size difference. Bill Francis is like the size of his brother. He's like 6'6".
Yeah, right. Art Bar is famously not 6'6".
Yeah. This big hulking, 6'5", 240 is what Bill Francis is listed at. And he was a football player too. I don't think he played in the NFL, but he at least tried to make a go of it after sitting out a bunch of years and returned to Portland, where of course he wrestled a bunch in Portland too throughout the 70s. Just like his brother, except he was full time, so he would often come to the continental U.S. and work some of the West Coast territories and the AWA and places like that. I'm looking at the Bill Francis cage match right now. He even has an All Japan tour on his resume, which I didn't know about until right this second. So it looks like he went to All Japan in 1975. And man, he worked with Baba and the Destroyer and Jumbo. Jeez. I mean, I'm looking at these results. He didn't win many matches, but he worked with the top guys. So I guess that's out of respect to his father that they brought in his kid and booked him on top. Nearly every match is against like Giant Baba and the Destroyer. So good for Bill Francis, I guess. But yeah, his career petered out pretty much as the territory petered out. One thing I was thinking about the Francis family in, reading up a lot this week and really thinking about them, they might be one of the most stable wrestling families that you can think of, because Ed Francis had 7 kids and only 2 of them became pro wrestlers. That number one is really bucking the odds, because whenever these pro wrestlers have a bunch of kids, every one of them want to be pro wrestlers. Right. He kept 5 of his kids out of the pro wrestling business entirely, which is something to be said for that.
Especially when they probably had some size to him. I'm guessing that it wasn't just 2 of them that grew up and had any amount of size. I bet there's some other dudes in there
that were 6'6".
That were 6'6", 6'5", 6'4", and said, I'm going to go into banking instead. And the dad said, that's a good idea. You should go into banking. Go ahead, son. Go for it.
Yeah. So not only did he keep 5 of his kids out of the pro wrestling business, he didn't overstay his welcome. Both times when he thought, okay, the first time when he lost his building, he said, fuck this, I'm done. He tried the monthly shows for a while, realized that wasn't sustainable, and he got the fuck out, right? Then he comes back in, tries it for another year and a half or so, and then says, you know what? This isn't the same as it was before. Fuck it. I'm wiping my hands clean. I'm selling this shit to Ricard, and I'm out. And he never came back. The guy never looked back, right? And then he got into private business, and, his kids all were very successful in whatever it is they did and got into private business. Russ Francis was very successful after pro wrestling after pro football, good head on his shoulders. This has to be one of the most stable and normal pro wrestling families that there was during that era. I can't think of another one because all the other ones are just, it's fucking Looney Tunes, these wrestling families. You know what I mean? So from that standpoint, I think you got to give Ed Francis some credit, unless there's some deep, dark secrets I'm not aware of. And if Ed Francis is in fact canceled, I'm sorry, I didn't know about it. So before we get the nasty messages and whatnot, it just seems like by wrestling family standards that they were just shockingly normal. But yeah, so WWF brings in Russ Francis for the WrestleMania 2 Battle Royal in Chicago, the Chicago portion of WrestleMania 2, which of course was held across 3 cities. And the gimmick with the Chicago portion of the show was they had this Battle Royal with the NFL players: Ernie Holmes, Harvey Martin, Jimbo Covert, William the Refrigerator Perry,
Bill Fralick, I remember.
Bill Fralick, yes, and Ed Too Tall Jones and Dick Butkus, who just passed away today.
Yes,
were the special guest referees, and they brought in Russ Francis because he was a real pro wrestler who knew what the fuck he was doing, and they figured he could help hold the thing all together, right? And help train these guys and get them ready for the match and all those sorts of things. So, Russ Francis, he was basically the ringer. They brought him in to be a ringer. And, everybody remembers because the match was in Chicago and Refrigerator Perry was the draw, right? Everyone remembers Big John Studd pulling Refrigerator Perry out of the ring. That's like the big high spot in the match that everybody remembers. But what a lot of people don't remember is Russ Francis was the last NFL player standing. I think he was in the Final 4 or Final 5 with Andre and the Hart Foundation and, whoever else was at the end of that match. But, Russ Francis acquitted himself pretty well for a guy who hadn't wrestled in a while. And he was kind of there to again, make sure, things didn't go completely off the rails with these totally inexperienced NFL players in the match. So that's probably that is his most famous pro wrestling match, the WrestleMania 2 Battle Royal.
Right. The next closest has to be Super Clash 2. I know he was on that show. It's him and Snuka against the Mercenary and the Terrorist. Yes, there was a wrestler called the Terrorist. No pretense there. Yeah, just literally the Terrorist.
That was the match. That was the match of the week I did this week.
Yeah.
So
yep.
Jimmy Snuka. So what happened was, coming off of WrestleMania 2, with all the publicity that got and everything, Vern Gagne knew he was going to be doing this Super Class 2 show in San Francisco. And Russ Francis was an active member of the 49ers at this time. So he brought Russ Francis back in the spring of '87, put him in a tag team with Jimmy Snuka, and built towards this Superclass show that they were going to hold in San Francisco. I think he worked a previous San Francisco show for Vern too in a Battle Royal, which drew very well. And then Vern tried to go back to the well and build up to this Superclass show with Russ Francis and Jimmy Snuka in the main event against the Mercenary and the Terrorist, which that was the main event locally for the local fans because they were in San Francisco, because that show had a Nick Bockwinkel AWA title match against Kurt Hennig. In fact, that's a pretty famous match because that's the match where Kurt Hennig finally won the AWA world title.
Right. About a year or two too late. About a year or two too late. But yeah, he did eventually win it.
Yeah, with the controversial finish and everything. But locally it was all right. Well, Russ Francis drew well in San Francisco for Vern before. And by this point, like, Roy Shire is long out of the pro wrestling business, and Vern had taken over the San Francisco territory, so to speak. But this was very late in the game for the AWA, and it was trying to go back to the well once too often. He paired Russ Francis with Jimmy Snuka, who was a huge star, who came in after the run with the WWF. I guess Snuka would have left the WWF in '85, and Vern scooped him up. So I guess he figured, I'm going to try to pair, whatever's left in whatever I can left to squeeze out of Jimmy Snuka with this local NFL hero, put them in there in this tag match. Now the Mercenary and the Terrorist is interesting because the Terrorist was a young Brian Knobbs.
Yes. Yeah.
This is Brian Knobbs in his rookie year, who had been doing TV jobs under the name Brian Knobbs and had just started tagging with Jerry Saggs as the Nasty Boys, but was doing double duty as this masked terrorist. I guess the idea was put him under a mask so people don't know he's the job guy that we have on TV. And I think his partner was supposed to be Colonel De Beers, who was Vern's top heel at the time. Believe it or not, youngsters, there was a time in pro wrestling where the AWA was pushing a white South African man whose gimmick was that he was pro-apartheid.
Yes.
That's right.
In what year was that, Joe?
1987. So that was Colonel De Beers' whole shtick. He was like, he was a racist guy from South Africa was his gimmick.
Well, I mean, the Truth Commission was kind of that as well, and that was in 1997. So it's not like we learned that much. They towed the line during the race wars of the DOA, the white guys, versus the Los Boricuas, the Puerto Rican guys, and then the Nation of Domination, the black guys. So yeah, that was 1997. So we didn't learn that much over the next 10 years.
No, and Colonel De Beers, for whatever reason, I mean, if you watch the match, and I have it up as the match of the week.
It's so bad.
Early in the match, they do mention that the mercenary is taking the spot of Colonel De Beers, who was injured or something. Who knows maybe he really was injured. Who knows? And the mercenary was billed as being from South Africa and being a stand-in for the absent Colonel De Beers. Rich, the weird thing about the mercenary is it was Ron Fuller.
Yeah, thank God he didn't talk, because that man is not from South Africa if you hear Ron Fuller talk. So
that Ron Fuller, the Tennessee stud.
Yeah.
That Ron Fuller that everybody, yes. The 6'10", very distinctive Southern accent from Tennessee, brother of Rob Fuller, brother of Colonel Rob Parker. That Ron Fuller, the Tennessee stud, the promoter from Continental, Southeastern, whatever you want to call it. What I cannot figure out, okay, obviously Colonel De Beers unavailable for whatever reason, whether he was injured, booked somewhere else, missed a flight, I don't fucking know. It's 1987. What on earth provoked Vern Gagne to book Ron Fuller on this show under a mask? Now, look, I get it. Ron Fuller means absolutely nothing to the fans in San Francisco, right? So I understand the idea of you're not going to book Ron Fuller and then think he's going to mean anything. So it's no big deal putting him under the mask is what I'm getting at, right? But why Ron Fuller? He wasn't part of the crew. He wasn't working regularly in the AWA. He presumably didn't come cheap. I mean, it's Ron Fuller. I mean, he wasn't like a huge star, but you're going to pay Ron Fuller, fly him in from Tennessee, put him under a mask, team him with the terrorist, and have him work a 10-minute main event against Jimmy Snuka and Russ Francis. It doesn't make any sense.
Well,
like, you have an entire crew of guys. Like, throw someone else under the mask and have them do double duty. Like, I cannot make the connection.
It's wild. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And he never worked in I checked to see if he ever popped up in California ever again after that or ever before that. Never. That was his one and only shot in California ever. I'm looking to his cage match now. I'm not sure the guy went past Tennessee. Might have been the farthest west he did. It's Alabama, it's Tennessee, and then all of a sudden there's boom, California right in the middle of there. I'm looking. Yeah, Japan obviously you got a little bit of run in Japan or whatever, but as far as in America, yeah, it doesn't look like he got too far out of Knoxville and Louisville and Florida and Alabama and that sort of stuff, because yeah, when that's your territory and you're on Fuller, yeah, you're going to stay there. I can't for the life of me figure out what the fuck Vern would book the guy and then also book him under the hood as the mercenary. But hey, more power to him.
Why Ron Fuller of all people? Did Vern specifically want like a 7-footer?
Maybe he wanted a menacing man to be the mercenary or whatever, and the only tall guy he could find was Ron.
Because there's so many other people you could have just put. Fucking plus it was like a full the body wasn't visible under the costume, like it was a full body costume, a mask. Like, I don't know, grab someone from the undercard, grab a local wrestler and pay him $50. Like, why Ron Fuller? is so perplexing to me.
He was doing,
Look,
Vern was making a lot of horrible decisions at that point. So it's possible this was yet another horrible decision that he made at this point.
Well, listen, I could totally see the Tennessee stud talking his way into this.
Oh, absolutely. Booking. Yeah, of course, get a flight out to California, booking, and not be Ron Fuller. That's perfect.
He's on a casual phone call with Vern one night, just shooting the shit. Hey, Vern, it's Ron Fuller. How are you tonight? You know,
Right.
and Vern's like, I got this fucking card in San Francisco, and Tobias can't make it. Well, what's the date? I could make that date.
Well, I reckon you got yourself in a pickle. Yeah, that's right.
Well, if you're looking for a mercenary, sir, then I know just the guy. Me, the Tennessee stud, Ron Fuller. Right? Like, I can totally see that playing out that way. You know? But that's the only way I could see this playing out. And then Vern's like, oh, well, fuck it. I'll fly out Ron Fuller.
Yeah,
Ron
why not?
Fuller's the mercenary. You know, there's my answer to all my problems. I just don't get it. Like, look, I know cage match isn't always complete, but I searched high and low. This man, I don't know. I don't believe he was working AWA shots.
Oh, no. This is one of the only. So I'm looking on the Wrestling Classics message board, and people are talking about this, actually. It's called, what's the thread, if you want to look it up? I lost. It's Ron Fuller's one night in the AWA. So they're trying to figure out what happened. And this one guy mentions that I think Ron Fuller mentioned this on a podcast. He'd never been out to San Francisco and took the family out there for a vacation and to wrestle in Super Clash. So he's like, honey, I got good news for you and the kids.
So this was absolutely what I just said.
Yeah, he called.
This man,
yeah, he was just casually.
He saw that Vern booked the Cow Palace.
Yep.
Right. And he called up Vern and started dipping his toes around. Vern, it's your old pal Ron Fuller, the Tennessee stud.
Right.
You know, and he started some small talk, and you know, he found a way to finagle his way on the car.
Yeah, so him and his kids could ride the trolley all around San Francisco for a weekend while
Vern's
he made.
like, things aren't great, Ron. Ed can't make San Fran. Ed Wisnowski, you know, the old Colonel De Beers. You know, I'm in a pickle here. Well, you're in luck, sir, because I happen to be bringing the family to San Francisco on May 2nd, 1987. And I would be
I'll
delighted.
be in the neighborhood. I'll be in the neighborhood. Unbelievable.
It would be my honor, sir, to take the place of Ed in that big tag team match against the Superfly and Russ Francis. That's exactly what happened.
Absolutely. He
finagled
it. He was just going to, either he wasn't going to go and you know, Vern mentioned that and he was like, kids, we're going to San Francisco and I'm going to get a vacation out of it. Or like you said, he was going to San Francisco and it just so happened to be, hey, I'm going to call Vern and get a booking out of this thing. Like we talked about the NWA Hawaii, you know, pay for your vacation. Go over there, make a cool $1,000 or whatever, get paid, you know, cool couple $100, whatever it may be at that time. And then, you know, treat the kids to some clam chowder out of a bread bowl and ride the trolleys all weekend while dad goes and does a booking. So yeah, why not?
If you're looking for a South African mercenary, I'm your huckleberry, sir.
Modern wrestlers could never. You know what I mean? Modern wrestlers could never finagle a vacation booking like this. Never.
Not a fucking chance. Just an amazing, amazing thing. And let me tell you something about the mercenary from South Africa in this match. Okay? Go watch it, Rich. This man takes one bump on a shoulder block.
Oh, yeah. He's not out there working. Are you kidding?
And he tags out. Go get him, kid. Brian Knobbs works the rest of that match.
Right.
Takes the pin, takes that awful splash from Russ Francis at the end, and Brian Knobbs takes every other bump in that match. Young Brian Knobbs as the terrorist. So Ron Fuller, what a worker! I got to tell you,
that's how it was done. That's how it was done, baby.
Stuff. Now the show was a fucking bomb. 2,800 according to what we've got. So a far cry from the 9,000 they drew at Russ Francis the first time. To my knowledge, that's the last match Russ Francis ever worked. Now people are going to go watch that and they're going to be like, this is the Russ Francis that people are talking up as one of the great athletes of the era. And Sam Mushnick thinks could have been an NWA world champion. What you have to understand is this man is 1987. Okay. Is the tail end of his NFL career. He's got over a decade of NFL hits on the bump card.
In the 80s too. This is in the 80s too, where you didn't have quite the exact amount of there's a lot of technology advances here for recovery and not so much in the 1980s.
Yeah, and I mean, and he didn't do much. I mean, they did. This was such a classic 1980s tag because Jimmy Snuka was the face in peril, And the mercenary and the terrorist, mostly the terrorist, just beat down Jimmy Snuka for the vast majority of this match, and they built to the hot tag. They built to the hot tag. This was such an 80s match because the first 5 minutes, literally the first 5 minutes of this match, is the mercenary and the terrorist stalling and refusing to get in the ring. So they did the old Larry Zbyszko special where they burned 4 or 5 minutes without even touching, pointing at the ref, get him back, in his non-South African accent. Get him back, referee.
Right.
I, the South African mercenary, I will not enter that ring.
An Afrikaner from South Africa.
Yeah, that's right. You better back him up, Mr. Referee. I'm not getting in that ring until that wild man Jimmy Snuka is under control. Like that kind of deal.
Yeah,
And they're pointing. They won't get in the ring. And they're threatening to leave. At one point, they throw their hands and they're just walking up the aisle. Classic 80s shit. And something MJF will do on Dynamite next week, without a doubt. So then and then finally, 4 or 5 minutes, they get in there, and Mercenary takes his one bump, tags out, and then it's just a long face in peril. Jimmy Snuka, and teasing that hot tag. And man, did those 2,800 people blow the roof off the Cow Palace when Russ Francis tagged in, though. Okay. So he comes in, he cleans house, and then they set up the terrorist. He tags Snuka back in. Snuka comes off the top with like a fist to the throat, and then Russ Francis comes off with one of the worst splashes off the top rope you'll ever see. This man he was gonna do anything that night except for fall on those knees that were probably in intense pain from 10 years of playing in the NFL, because he did one of those splashes where you land on your feet and then kind of slowly collapse down on the guy and your knees don't come anywhere near the canvas. It looked awful. He didn't look great, but again, this is not prime Russ Francis, and I do think, to the best of my knowledge, that this was the final match he ever wrestled. So I think Vern realized there was nothing left there. I think Russ Francis realized that there was no money in this return, because the AWA was
look around
at that point.
Look around. Yeah, come out to that arena and look around and go, all right, yeah, I think we're done here.
Yeah, but he got a few paydays there at the end of the line, and Vern gave it a shot. It was a good idea on paper, but it was going to the well once too often. And I guess a few months later, he got traded away from the 49ers anyway. So that kind of would have been the end of that, because Vern wasn't running New England.
No,
that wasn't
no, Sirree Bob. No, Sirree Bob. Was he not running New England? No.
That would have been the end of that. But and then that was it for Russ Francis, who, as you mentioned on the Instant Reaction Live, was one of the major players on the Superstars show in the 70s, where they would take the best athletes from all the various sports. And again, you can never do this today because the money's too big, and no one's going to risk getting injured, and teams aren't going to want their players doing it in sort of like these off-season competitions. But
yeah, it's insane to watch that show, and it's like top stars too. It's not like
best athlete in the world.
Like now, if they did it, maybe you could get by having like these like third tier, these random ass third baseman on some team that you've never heard of, or I mean, honestly, probably even tough to do those guys. But like you watch this, and it's like top level stars are playing in this game show, and it's unbelievable to watch it in real time. But yeah, it was a thing. They're a lot of fun to watch. I love going back and watching all those episodes. There's a bunch of them up on YouTube if you ever need to check any of them out.
But Russ Francis was one of the top guys. He would be one of the top competitors in Superstars. What they would do is they would take part like swimming, weightlifting, running, like Olympic style events to determine who was the best athlete in the world.
Right. And like I said, it was almost always like like I always remember this one, I forget who else was in it, but like Wayne Grimditch was like a skier, and he won. It's like he's in there with like, right? Yeah, I forget who the fuck he was against, but it was like there was like top level athletes, and you're like, oh man. And it's like the winner of the Superstars is Wayne Grimditch. It's like Wayne Grimditch, the best athlete in the world. You're like, really? Are we sure about that? But it's like I'm trying to find who he was against. Okay, he was against. Okay, I guess none of these other guys were that big of dudes. Dave Casper, football player. That's not that big of a one. Yeah,
player, yeah, Raiders.
Yeah, I guess there wasn't too many other guys. That's okay. Greg Pruitt, football player too, but that's all right.
Greg Pruitt, running back for the Browns.
Yeah.
Charles White, a running back from USC, who played for the Rams later on. There, there's a lot of football players. A lot of wasn't Greg Louganis a participant?
I think so. Yeah, Louganis definitely was.
Diver.
If you're in the mid 70s, there's a little bit of juice, so a lot of OJ out there.
Oh,
so, yeah.
OJ!
Yeah, a little.
Hello, Twitter world. Absolutely a little OJ.
A little juice in there if you
love the OJ Twitter.
Yeah, it's a Twitter. That's for sure.
So yeah, he did Superstars, and then he had his pilot's license. Obviously, the plane crash. He was flying a private plane. There was one other passenger, and they both passed away. But 70 years old. Was he 70 or 80? 70 years old at the time of the flight. And there's a lot of great comments in the chat. I want to read you some of these. So there's a guy in the chat who says he grew up near Portland and he remembers watching Big Bill Francis come wrestle in Portland. I guess that would be, depending how old this guy is, either the mid to late 70s or the early 90 run that I was talking about where he wrestled Beetlejuice. Z notes that Bill Francis not only wrestled in All Japan, but he worked the Champion Carnival in 79.
Wow. Okay.
The same guy who remembers watching Big Bill Francis come to Portland says Colonel De Beers was his substitute teacher in 7th grade.
Can you imagine?
Yep. So he lived in Vancouver, Washington, right across the river from Portland. He says, I recognized him. And in 1992,
did he have the
Colonel
stash?
De Beers was his substitute.
He had to have had the stash. I've never seen Colonel De Beers without that mustache. So he absolutely had that mustache.
Gogo Prada
right?
80 is this guy's name. So in 7th grade, he remember. Yeah. So that means, it must have been the 90s.
Yeah, he had
Big
that
Bill
stash
Francis.
for sure. You're not fucking with that substitute teacher, by the way. You know, some people fuck with
Colonel De
substitutes
Beers.
and act like assholes. You're not fucking with Colonel De Beers.
So check this out. Here's another comment from the chat. I found a news item from a 1987 Observer issue where Vern claimed that he and Ron Fuller have a money guy and are going to start running shows on the West Coast.
Okay, so here's what happened. Ron Fuller said, I got a money guy. And Fern went, oh, okay. Right. I like money. I need money. That sounds great.
Not only will I work the Cow Palace for you, sir, I got me a money guy.
Right.
And we're going to open back up in the Shire territory.
Right.
Oh, man. Boy, did they have plans. The Tennessee stud and Vern Gagne.
Yeah. That is the best part about late 80s Observers is every news note is like all these old territory guys being like, they're going to rerun the thing, but they're going to it's this territory and this territory, and they're going to call themselves, Global World Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
They got a money guy. It's like, all right. It's not.
Listen here,
it's
Vern.
over. It's over. It's done. Everybody
I
lost.
got me a money guy, and we're going to take down Vince McMahon.
Yeah. We're going to take down New York once and for all. Vince Jr. and New York are going down.
So check this out. He goes on to say, this almost reads like a Mad Lib. So Wahoo McDaniel was supposed to be the booker.
Of course.
And Vern Fuller and Jerry Jarrett promoting with some secret money guy.
Oh, that would have went great. Yes, because by the way, if people don't know about AWA Super Clash, is the reason it's called Super Clash is the first Super Clash, AWA Super Clash 1, was a confluence of all these different territories. They're all being just absolutely destroyed by Vince McMahon coming together and saying, you know what, if we all work together, there's no way Vince Jr. is going to beat us. So it's the AWA, the NWA, World Class, and now we have this whole thing called Pro Wrestling USA. We're gonna take over USA Wrestling with our conglomerate of us three companies. So they run this Super Clash show at Comiskey Park. It gets like 20,000 people or whatever, which is a good number. It's a massive show. There's like 1,200 matches on the show. It's never-ending show, goes forever. And after the show, everybody hates each other because Jim Crockett's trying to sign all the talent, and Vern and the Von Erichs aren't getting along, and it's just a complete fucking disaster. And they disputed the live gate, and everybody argued over it, and all this sort of stuff. So they obviously AWA Super Clash 2 is just AWA Super Clash 2, and there's no other promotions involved in it. And Pro Wrestling USA was basically done after 1 year. So now let's do it again. Now this time we're gonna get the Jarretts, the Fullers, and Vern together with Wahoo McDaniel as the promoter. I'm sure it'll work this time. Definitely.
Yeah, Wahoo doing the booking, and and it says prelim guys were supposed to get $60,000 a year.
Oh,
in
I'm
1987
sure.
Money.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, Junior McMahon ain't gonna know what hit him, Vern.
My guy's got computer money. It was probably some guy that definitely, some tech guy or something like that was telling Fuller he had money.
I see dollar signs in that DJ Peterson. I see dollar signs, Vern. We're going to do it.
Vern, Jerry Jarrett, and Ron Fuller. Yeah, okay. I'm sure that'll go great, guys. Good luck with that.
You bring Jerry Blackwell, and I'll bring the checkbook. Absolutely. That's exactly how it went down. Man, would I like to be on those phone conversations. That would have been something. Now I got to dig up this Observer. The May 25th, 1987.
Yeah, May 25th, 1987, yeah.
Wrestling Observer newsletter. Oh, boy, to be a fly on the wall. Maybe it would have been built around the South African mercenary, this new promotion. Who knows? But
it was definitely going to be built around Jeff, by the way. It would not have gone well, right?
Jeff, yeah, you're right. You're
Jeff
right.
Jarrett and Greg Gagne, and yeah, it would have been terrible. It would have been. And Ron Fuller is the mercenary.
Yeah, Bunkhouse Buck.
Right.
That's who's going to be built around. You know, my cousin's looking for work.
And Kurt Hennig, who's got one foot out the door, will not answer any of Vern's. Hey, Kurt, yeah, what Vern? Want to come in? I'm going to be busy, I think. Trying as he's, running to the other room to call Vince. Please sign me. Please, for God's sakes, get me out of here. I need to get out of here. So,
Vern, I could bring old Jimmy Golden out there with me, and we can push him to the moon.
I wish it did happen, though. It would have been great for the 2 months it would have lasted or whatever. So, oh, God. Conglomerates, old territory conglomerates in the late 80s. Nothing better. I'd love to do a deal. We got to do a Pro Wrestling USA deep dive one of these days. Just one show and everybody hated each other. It's the best. I love it.
Fantastic stuff. But that's Russ Francis, who passes away at the age of 70. Much more extensive wrestling career. And, I think a lot of people don't really know about the Hawaii territory. So I thought it was a good opportunity.
No, they innovated a lot of stuff with in terms of pro wrestling, like, pretty early high level, television production from them, which, if you watch it now, you're going to go, this doesn't look like high level, but it's like mid 70s. This is pretty high level television production for wrestling. I think, was it steel cage matches that began there? I want to say something like that. I don't know if it was steel cage matches or some sort of stipulation. I want to say it was steel cage matches that started there, and also pretty heavy in backstage interviews as well at a time when that was still pretty foreign, where most guys would either cut promos in the ring or they'd be brought into the ring with an interview guy. But these were backstage interviews because, like I said, they were doing pretty high level TV production pretty early on in the late 60s, early 70s. So yep,
they did a lot of like locker room angles.
Yeah.
That was something that they did a lot of. And again, you were always guaranteed to get a lot of big stars too coming in to that promotion. So it's funny. I'm looking at the night that they went head to head with the rival when that rival promotion ran their first show at the HIC. They brought in the rival promotion brought in Ray Stevens against Edward Carpentier, and then Ed Francis. He loaded it up with an 18-man Texas Battle Royal with Gene Kaniski, Luther Lindsay, Mr. Moto, Curtis Ayakea. So, they weren't afraid to do gimmick matches and things like that. But, an interesting promotion to read up on the history of. And, all the various television show changes that they went through over the years. And again, Ed Francis was a pretty pragmatic promoter, and he just, he up the deck as soon as shit started not being profitable, and just got into other business. Now, Butkus dies today at the age of 80, and he has some minor pro wrestling connections. The guest referee at WrestleMania 2 that we did was 80 years old. Bears up 27-3 on the live show here on Thursday Night Football. Rich, is this Dick Butkus, the Dick Butkus effect here? Is he from the grave, leading the Bears to their first victory since Elon Musk bought Twitter? Is this possible?
I don't know. Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, by the way, connection-wise, so people hear that, just so you know. But, I don't know. I saw some people in our Discord saying that, and Dick Butkus never went to the playoffs in his entire career, so I don't know that he's the guy that's going to motivate you to make it big and take a big win. But, it might be something. I don't know. Maybe they've Maybe they figured out something over there in Chicago. Maybe they can hold this lead the entire time. It'd be pretty funny if they blew this one too. I don't think Chicago could take this. I hope they just win this. My coworkers could not stand another collapse from the Bears. But Joe, you're back. Hopefully you're doing all right.
Well, just as I say that, Washington scored. So.
That's what I'm saying, man. This is going to be careful. I might have to turn this on then at least.
Yeah.
Don't watch many football games. I did watch the Bears on Sunday, though. Watch them collapse in front of me, so that was fun. All right, let's get to the rest of our wrestling show here this week. AEW Dynamite. At times feels like AWA sometimes. AEW Dynamite this week. You did the Thursday Dynamite review up at flagship.patreon.com. That's on the $5 tier, by the way, if you want to subscribe and hear that. I think an all-time great episode of the Thursday Dynamite review, just talking about what the fuck that show was and the ups and the downs and how it was one of your least favorite Dynamites of all time. And I kind of got that feeling as well. It wasn't the worst Dynamite I've ever seen. I've seen worse ones, I'm sure. There's been shows that I've probably, but this one, it was like when it was over, I was just like, man, I'm really at a point now where I do not know what the hell's going on with this company anymore, with some of the high level stuff going on there, some of the characters going on, some of the tone, some of the, there's so much with this show that I was just like, man, I'm starting to lose my grasp of what the fuck this is supposed to be. And it's wild because after Wrestle Dream, we're on the show saying, like, here we go. AEW has another immensely great pay-per-view. It's one that rose up through Cage Match over the last couple days. Like, on that show, we were talking, it was like, what, the 16th best AEW pay-per-view ever by the end of this week. I think it's like 5th or 6th at this point. So just kept rising up. People would find the show, go on there, rate it, whatever it may be. You know, it's rising up to being one of the better pay-per-views they've ever done. And I would agree. It was just a tremendous pay-per-view. They've had a run of really, really great pay-per-views, but man, this week-to-week TV is just, it's mind-numbing at times, and particularly, obviously, the Brochacho stuff, the pre-tapes, the Adam Cole can't lift a couch thing. I'm supposed to laugh. I don't know why. The Timeless Tony Storm stuff is just as bad, and it's probably not getting enough credit for being as bad as it is because the Cole stuff and the MJF stuff and the Brochacho and the Roger Strong stuff is all that much worse, but the Tony stuff stinks, and it's just like, man, then MJF cuts that promo, and I'm like, man, what is going on with this company right now? And you know, it all kind of leads to, I think, and we can kind of wrap these into one, you know, big segment here, is this coming week, we got a Tuesday night battle. We got Tuesday Night War, Super Tuesday, whatever you want to call it. Sports are forcing AEW to Tuesday this week. They're not going to be on Wednesday. They're on Tuesday this week. And they're going head-to-head with NXT. And NXT is surging in the ratings. They just had their best viewership in quite some time last week, mostly on the heels of Becky Lynch. They have John Cena announced. They have Paul Heyman announced. They have Cody Rhodes announced. Some other things will come over the next couple of days as well. But NXT is going to be pretty damn loaded. And it's a show that really has only needed like Dom Mysterio and Becky to do big ratings, or, you know, Seth Rollins or whoever to do big ratings. They're bringing out Cody Rhodes, Cena, Heyman. I'm sure Becky will find her way in there. She's still the NXT champion. They're going to load this show up on their end, and this could be a real eye-opening week for a lot of people. How NXT has been surging in the ratings and how well they've done, and maybe just how AEW has kind of lost their way in a lot of ways. And this week being, you know, not another not so great ratings week. Obviously, there's the factor of the DVRs, which, you know, was discussed a little bit on the Thursday Dynamite review. And if you follow Tony Khan and AEW on Twitter, you know, they mentioned that there was an issue where, you know, the cable was showing that the show was going to start at 4 p.m. or whatever, as opposed to 7 or whatever. But or 8 or whatever it was supposed to be in the East Coast. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting week. And I don't know. I know that you talked at length about it on your Thursday Dynamite review, but yeah, this week's show was eye-opening for me. It really was, of just like, what are we doing here? Like, what's going on? What do you guys want out of this thing? Like, what is the tone? What is the tenor of this promotion right now? And I will say, little by little, I've seen a lot of people start to turn. I've seen a lot of the worm turning a lot on this. This week was the first time I've seen almost, and maybe there's a few people out there, but I saw almost 100% of people saying, like, I don't understand this Adam Cole, Roger Strong thing. I don't think this is funny at all. And this MJF promo sucked. Like, I didn't see anybody defending this. And that might be we've just like ran off every single person that likes this stuff and or whatnot. But I don't know. I sensed this week a lot of just like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we actually trying to accomplish with this company right now? Because it feels in a lot of ways like they've kind of lost their way. This week in particular was just so eye-opening to that.
it's a perplexing thing because, so much of the rest of the show, I think, is very well focused and going in some positive directions, and feels like it's booked better and than it has been, over the vast majority of the rest of 2023. But look, MJF is just determined to prove some kind of point. And I don't, it was very obvious when he came into the Wrestle Dream press scrum, or whatever you want to call it, that he was gotten to about all of this, because before anybody even asked him a question, he was already defending himself. And I don't know who it was he went after. It may have been Brian Alvarez for some tweet that he saw that called his match a gimmick match. And Brian actually liked the match, but MJF took offense to the fact he called it a gimmick match, and then went into this long diatribe defending his flavor of ice cream.
Right. Or that wrestling has lost its way, or we've lost a step or something like that. And now I'm bringing it back, and I'm bringing a new flavor of ice cream or whatever. And it's like, all right, dude. I mean, you're not,
and it's just very telling that before he's even asked a question, that he's already in defense mode. I thought that was very telling. I feel like, and talking about how, and then he did that interview with Ibu from Wrestle Purist, and then buried him on Twitter, lightheartedly buried him, literally moments after his match on the pay-per-view, saying, "Oh, did the crowd not react to me now?" Or something along those lines. He just seems very, very sensitive and gotten to when it comes to this topic, and he's out to prove something. And yeah, the live crowds do respond to this stuff, and yeah, his segments typically do good quarter hours. Are they positioned in the quarter hours that traditionally do well? Yeah, they are. First quarter hour, top of the hour, but do they perform? Yes, they do. You can't take that away. Do I think it's some kind of red hot angle that's now look, let's not go crazy with how well that these quarter hours do either. Because it's not like this show is doing 2 million viewers and putting up 0.5s. Okay. The show's basically doing the same numbers it's been doing for the last year or so. It's basically flat to last year, a little down some weeks, little up some weeks, generally down. They're not selling tickets.
Right. Just because your quarter hour is a little bit better than some of the other quarter hours does not mean it's a hot angle. It means it might
here's
be.
The thing, it should be. You're the world champion
Right.
in the hardest pushed angle.
And he's been the champion for a year. I don't think people quite. I know I didn't. When someone mentioned, "Hey, he's about to be the champion for a year, and he's going to he's going to have the longest reign in AEW history very, very, very soon." The guy's been top champion for a year. He's going to pass that very, very shortly. You can judge this guy. You can judge this guy on the merits of what is selling and what is drawing and what the TV is. Like, I know that there were a lot of people push back on that and say, "Oh, well, no, there's this and there's this and there's this and there's this and there's this." I'm sorry, man. When you're the world champion for a year, I got to see some business move. I mean, I can't just say, well, everything's kind of the same or down slightly. So, yeah, he's been fine. It's not his fault. I mean, the guy's been a champion for a year.
Yeah, forgive me if I'm not throwing bouquets at your nice little quarter hours, which is what they are. This isn't some massive business boom that your dopey little brochacho line, storyline is producing. It's not. You're doing some nice little quarter hours. You're selling some T-shirts. No one's buying tickets to these shows. Pay-per-view business isn't blowing it out the door. I mean, there's other, no one can call this some kind of, people try to say it's a red hot angle, but there's no evidence that it is. But anyway, my point here is he seems a little insecure about it, snapping at people before they even ask him a question, explaining his thought process. And he's out to prove something. I don't know what he's trying to prove, but it's like, Max, all right, man, you proved your point. You proved that you can tell people you're going to do a body slam and then get them to pop for a body slam. You told people that you're going to do a double clothesline and then get them to pop for a double clothesline. You tell people to call somebody a talentless taint and then stick the microphone in the air in sheer desperation to get them to chant it.
How?
You've proved that they'll chant it.
Right.
Okay?
How bad was him saying, "All right, guys, now we're going to do a dueling chant"? Like, if you didn't watch the show, he literally said, "All right, guys, let's do a dueling chant."
Yeah.
One side will say talentless taint, and then the other one's going to, ass boys or whatever. And it's like, what? That's not, come on, man.
And he knows they're going to do it because he's over.
Yeah.
Right. But it's lazy. It's derivative. It's beneath him. It's uncreative. And now he's kind of on the defensive about it because there's a lot of people who think it's all of the things that I just said, that it's just utter garbage, stinking up the shows. And it's just interesting. He's trying to, I guess, prove some point to the other boys in the back or to fans or to whoever. We tap out. You proved it. You're a fucking genius. You're brilliant. You're a brilliant mind. You are a beautiful mind. You have proven that you can get these Pavlovian responses in the arenas, that you can get people to do sort of this lowest possible level form of crowd response theater in these buildings. You proved it, man. Can we get back to pro wrestling now? Right? You proved your point. You are no doubt the biggest brain in the room. Yeah, an amazing ability to tell people to do something and then they do it. Bravo, sir. But now can we all just move on from this nonsense?
Right. Well, it all goes back. It all goes back to All In, and that's the point that I think all this changed, and for me at least, it was like the inflection point of like, okay, now I don't know what we're doing anymore, because I was under the impression, I'm sure a lot of people were as well, that all of this was buddy, chummy, all right, yeah, we're brochachos, double clothesline, body slam, all that sort of stuff, was all this wink, nudge stuff that both these guys truly did not like each other and were just faking it in front of each other to try to get to this end point where they were going to go to All In, and Cole let, MJF let his guard down a little bit and Cole swooped in to get the title shot, or MJF was playing 4D chess and letting this guy let this guy get his guard down so that he could turn on him, and all. That's kind of what we all thought was going to happen here at All In, was, okay, now we're going to finally move on or something. And I remember you saying like, I don't be so sure that they got shit ready till December. And I'm thinking there's no way, because the whole story to me was that, and that was in canon, the story as well, because these guys would be chummy and buddy and brochacho or whatever, but then Adam Cole would touch the AEW title and MJF would snap a look at him and go like, hey man, hold on a minute, what are you doing? That's my title. And it was like, okay, at the end of the day, it's still all about this title. It's all about, this rivalry. And now we see those little bits of moments where they let their guard down, that it's obvious that these guys still cannot stand each other and that someone's playing somebody and someone will get played at All In. That was my thought. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I don't know. This is absolutely no disrespect to you or anything you just said, but I zoned out because I don't even give a shit where this story's going.
Well, I'm saying, though, I don't care either, because I thought the story was to All In.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, someone's going to turn on somebody. Someone is going to switch to say, now it's over. After All In, this buddy, chummy brochacho, which is over the top on purpose to get people to kind of say, okay, these guys are being so over the top that it's clear they're fake nice to each other. They don't actually like each other. They're going to destroy each other at All In. Max is going to beat Adam Cole into a bloody pulp or whatever and take his title back, or Cole's going to turn on him with the help of Roderick Strong or whatever. And then none of that happened at All In. At All In, Roderick Strong came out and you're thinking, okay, here we go. And then no, none of that happened. And then Max did his, if the title means that much to you, just take it. I don't want it. And it was like, okay, well now I've lost complete, I don't know what the fuck this is anymore. And we went on the All In Instant Reaction and said, like, I was like, okay, well now I don't fucking know anymore. And I know less every single week now. I know so much less every single week now, when we're still being over the top. Now I'm like you. I'm like, I don't know what you're trying to prove, buddy, but like, you proved it up to All In. You proved that you could get that over. We're good now. We tap out. We're good. Let's move on to some other stuff. Let's have a real story. Let's get back to pro wrestling. But now it's apparently become an addiction to, get tofu over, which is not over, by the way. People do not like chanting tofu at all. And you can do these things where you come out and you say something, you hold the microphone up, and then fans, you say it. Great. Your LA Knight, your LI Knight is what I want to call him for Long Island Knight at this point. Like, that's what he is at this point. And it's like, okay, cool. I guess this is fun and interesting and unique for you, but I don't know. It seems really lazy and really beneath you and kind of like not. This guy is so fucking talented. He's 27. He's been the world champion for a year. He did all this. I mean, he is the top guy in this company, and he built himself up from the ground up. He's one of the smartest, most learned, most studied wrestlers I've ever seen in my entire life. And this is where we're at with this. It's like, all right, I'm done.
This is what he likes. This is what he likes.
Yeah, well,
this is who he is, and this is what he likes. And Tony Khan obviously likes it, or Tony Khan is just scared to confront him, and he likes that that it gets good live reactions and does these cute little quarter-hour numbers, which aren't blowing doors off by any means. And, you know, I don't know. It's the bigger problem to me is it's permeating the entire company, just like I said it would, just like I predicted in the spring. Everybody told me I was wrong. Everybody told me I was out of my mind. Everyone told me I was overreacting. This is now a subtlety hammer company. This is what they are, a subtlety hammer promotion. Mid-South Tony's dead. This is a subtlety hammer promotion, just like the other place. Something silly or zany gets over on TV. They lean super hard into it, whether it's the brochacho nonsense, these terribly unfunny pre-tapes. I would like to know, and I know people listen to this who are in the room. I'd like to know from any of these grown adult men in the room running this show, who thinks any of these pre-tapes are funny?
Right, who's slapping their knee at Adam Cole having trouble lifting a couch and making a funny face?
Talk me through what the joke is.
Right.
What's the punchline? Why do you think this stuff is funny? Because when you look online, the only people who react to this are the crying face emoji crowd. And maybe that's the idea, to attract a different kind of demographic, a less sophisticated fan. I hate to sound, you know, like a gatekeeper or uppity or whatever term you want to use to describe, but maybe that's the idea, is to try to attract a less sophisticated wrestling fan who, you know, and people will bury me for this, but I don't care. I get buried for everything. Maybe that's the idea, to attract the crossover WWE fans.
Why would that person not just watch WWE though?
Who else would? But I agree. Look. My point here is, we're seeing more of this now, like with Timeless Tony. She did something that was mildly amusing, and they're leaning so far into it that now she's a total NXT caricature, right? You're going to see that giraffe on TV. I guarantee
Oh, my God, Matt Taven's giraffe. They showed that giraffe twice. He's stroking it, looking at the camera. That fucking giraffe, you get ready for that thing. That thing is going to be everywhere. Yeah. There's going to be a shirt about it soon.
Roderick Strong has like this crackly, whiny-sounding voice. So now what do we get on TV every week? Adam! And who does that appeal to? It appeals to idiots.
Right. He went from guy in a neck brace to now he's like a full-blown, like,
caricature.
He can't walk. He's in a hospital gown, and it's like,
he's wearing a hospital gown while not in a hospital. This is just low level.
God. Who wants this shit? Fuck off.
It's God. Low level. It's low level, low brow, WWE style sports entertainment. That's what it is. And that's what this promotion, it's permeating more and more into AEW. And the problem is, it's like I said in the spring and what I tried to warn people about. Once you go down this road and some of this stuff starts getting over, every single person in the back who's not getting TV time, who's not happy with their push, they go home at night, their head hits the pillow, and they're thinking about, what kind of wacky, zany character can I come up with? Because this is what gets on TV now. This is what gets over. Tony Storm is working the main event on Dynamite. Tony Storm gets segments every week. Roderick Strong is doing his gimmick on TV every week. The Brochachos is the top story in the. This is how it happens. And this is all I was trying to explain to people months and months ago. And the more Tony Khan allows this stuff to be honest, look, the floodgates are open. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Okay. And you know, there's going to be more and more. This is a subtlety hammer promotion now. Longtime listeners know what I mean when I say that.
Oh, yeah, at this point, the next time
AEW subtlety hammer now.
Oh, for sure. The next time Daniel Garcia comes out, he needs to do his dance like the entire time. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Walk down the ramp doing the dance. The bell rings, he does the dance. Instead of doing it once or twice a match, he's just got to do it every second of the match.
Yeah, and this is not even a referendum on their future, the future of the company or anything like that. Maybe they'll be successful going down this path. My problem with it is, I am almost entirely lost hope that this is going to be an alternative to what the WWE was offering unopposed for 2 decades, because they're so similar in so many ways now in the way that they're presenting their product. So, look, they're going to get a big television deal. I'm sure the attendance will turn around at some point. You know, and they're going to be fine. The pay-per-views are still great. We still have those. You just got to ignore MJF shit, and the pay-per-views are great.
Yeah, they keep throwing MJF bullshit in the first match of the pay-per-view, and then have 2-3 hours afterwards of just incredible stuff. That'll work for sure. But yeah.
Yeah, but the problem here is we're no longer this rebellious alternative to what the standard in American television wrestling is. We're just more and more just like that place.
Well, I used to come on this show and I would say that AEW, for better or for worse, in my mind better, but for some people maybe worse or whatever, is a pro wrestling company. And we haven't had a pro wrestling company in this country in decades, probably 3 decades, because WCW
I can't confidently call it a pro wrestling.
It's not a pro wrestling company anymore. And that's whatever. Like, it's okay. But it's more.
What they've chosen this, and it's deliberate. And the reason I believe is they're shook by the bloodline and the success that WWE had earlier this year, turning around their house show business and their ratings and their business. And they feel like in order to appeal to WWE fans, they have to do more things. And you have a guy like MJF, who this is his preferred style of wrestling, and he's the top guy, and he's going to do what he wants, and no one's going to stop him. And as long as he's producing these halfway decent quarter hours, he's got the argument to back it up. And for people who don't like this stuff like us, the only way you're going to see it stop is if the live crowd stop responding to it. If he stops getting those pops, if people stop participating in his crowd participation nonsense, then maybe you have a hope that, that someone can turn around and say, hey, look, man, this stuff isn't working. But it's working for the live crowds. He's doing his decent little quarter hours. And, there's going to be no end in sight. This is his vision. He's the world champion. He's the top star in the company. And as I've been saying to people for months and months, he is the most powerful force in the company. And he was the most powerful force in the company, even when Punk was there. Everyone thought it was Punk. It was not. It was Max. Max is the most powerful force in that company. Go ask anybody in it. Because I do. He's the most powerful force in that company. So that's why this stuff isn't going to stop until he decides he doesn't want to do it anymore. And it's going to continue to permeate the company in other ways. So if you don't like it, I don't know. You're beat. You're like us and you're beat. Welcome to the losing team. I've been on it for years.
Right. We're there again. For a minute, it felt like we might win. We might get a victory. Maybe we're not going to win the war, but maybe we'll win some battles. But we've lost the battles. We lost the wars. It's over. Yeah.
Tony was the best and last chance.
Oh, you don't think there's going to be another billionaire who came up on the message boards? That's, no, come on. There's got to be another one out there.
And people again say we're overreacting, and they'll say, but listen, I've been saying this for months that this day was coming. It is what it is.
That's fine. It is. Yeah. Now I know where we stand. Like I like you said, I thought that we were going to get this rebellious alternative that was unabashedly pro wrestling, and it's not. It's another sports entertainment company, and it'll go right in line with mid-90s WCW, which slowly found its way into just becoming sports entertainment. It'll go where TNA did when it slowly just became sports entertainment as well. And yeah, now AEW's another one of those long lines of upstart U.S. companies that maybe from time to time do stuff unique, but for the most part are just another sports entertainment company chasing the big giant in the broom. So yeah.
It's Lazy Max, Dollar Store Dwayne. He's doing this
L.I. Knight. I'm doing L.I. Knight is the one I'm picking. So.
It just dollar store acts. 2002, The Rock routine.
No, well, worse. No, 2002 Rock. At least he is. Remember when Rock came back against John Cena and he clearly didn't have his fastball anymore, and he just started calling John Cena like a kung pao bitch and stuff. And it's like, what are you talking about? Yeah. He was just saying the fruity pebbles and kung pao bitch and all this stuff. It's like, what are you doing? Like, what does that do with anything?
I felt bad for MJF after the beatdown when he was like, he's like growling into the mic. He's like, "You're on, tofu." He still had to shoehorn in the tofu. Like, he just came off like a complete dork. Like, Jay White came off so much cooler than him. And, who's the baby face here? And it's, but it's, I believe this is strategic. And I think Tony's allowing them to lean into this. You have people in the room who like this kind of shit too. And, this is what MJF wants to do, so that's what Max is going to do. Nobody's going to stop him. So just settle in.
Yeah.
It ain't going anywhere. This is what this company is now. This is what this promotion is now. I want to be wrong, but I feel like there's going to be more of this, not less of it.
Right. We're too far gone, I think, now. Like I said, if at All In, if MJF, stuck his hand out to Adam Cole and shook it and then beat his ass down and bloodied him up and destroyed him and kind of laughed and said, "You fool, you trusted the devil," or whatever. Or Adam Cole does the exact same thing where he says, "Max, you idiot, I was never your friend. I would never wanted to be your friend," like that, all that sort of stuff. And he's, Roderick helps him win the title and they beat him down, they're bloodied or whatever. Then I'm like, all right, cool. When all that, what we had, all the brochacha, the double clothesline, all that bullshit, the fucking trampoline park and the Chinese food, hot owie, all that shit was all just for the end of, okay, these guys are going to turn on each other or whatever. We've gone past that point. We're too far gone now. Because now what's he going to do? Is he going to, in 2 months, say, I was all joking. I was all a joke and you all played it. It's like, you did it for 9 months, man. Like, we can't, I'm not.
I don't know. I don't even think about this stuff because I am so.
Well, it's past it. Now like, there isn't thought to it. Now I know
there's this whole thing where there's a lot of people who think that Adam Cole isn't really injured. And I never really considered it because I don't care. Like, I've never thought about, oh yeah, maybe this is a worked injury, but it's like,
it's too long. They've done it too long. And I
haven't ever considered it. I just don't give a shit whether Adam Cole is faking his leg injury or not, or I don't care.
Well, and like you said, it's not like it's this one thing on the entire show that's completely different than everything else. Like people in the Note of chat were bringing up great points. Yeah. The JAS, their whole shtick was that they were sports entertainers. Andrew Rich brought up the same thing. Remember that? It was not that long ago.
But their whole shtick was mocking it.
Yes. But the shtick was like, hey, here are sports entertainers, and we are sports entertainers or whatever. And the idea was, look at these fucking goofballs doing this sports entertainment bullshit on this pro wrestling show. And that was the heat. Was these sports entertainers. And Daniel Garcia, people telling him, hey, be a wrestler. And he goes, no, I'm a sports entertainer. And everyone went, boo. I thought that's what this company was. And now it's like, like you said, there's not only the MJF and Adam Cole stuff. If it was just them isolated in their own little world, you might be able to still play off this. All right, these are just these weirdos doing their own weird dumb thing or whatever. But like you said, now you got Tony Storm being a 1940s film noir starlet or doing some Sunset Boulevard bullshit, and it's like, all right, and it's going to continue. Like you said, it's not going to just be Max and Adam. Now Roddy's in there. Now the Kingdom are in there. Now Tony's in that universe or whatever of this, just whatever the
anything that mildly is amusing will be leaned into with the subtlety.
It's it's becoming a comedy program in a lot of ways.
It's exactly what it is. And that's not to say that they're not still going to have great matches and great pay-per-views. All of that will continue, but you're going to have to deal with this bullshit too.
It's a variety. It's now a variety show. The classic, we have something for everybody. What Vince McMahon would always say, and it's like, all right. Well,
when the original concept here was that we were going to be an alternative and be different,
right?
And now we are more alike with them than we have been in a very long time,
and less successful at the gates and in the ratings. So. All right,
the gap keeps getting closed in terms of how different these two promotions are. And, and yes, like, as you just said, there's times in their history where they were far more successful than they are now in terms of attendance and television ratings and those sorts of things. And there was way less of this stuff. And that, some people will say, oh, well, they've always had elements of this. Yes, they have, but that's disingenuous and you're missing the point. It wasn't, we wove it into the fabric of you get what I'm saying here. This is the top program in the company.
Right. Matt Hardy coming out with the fucking drone one time does not equal 9 months.
And by the way, we buried that.
Yeah, that shit sucks, by the way, too. The Mimosa Mayhem match, go listen to that Instant Reaction Live if you want to see what we thought of that match or whatever. Yeah.
If your argument is AEW has always done this sort of stuff, my counter would be yes, and I think it has always sucked. So I don't, that's not, you're not scoring a point.
Right. But ultimately it was one little thing, and maybe it was the small thing on a larger show, or it didn't involve the main event, or it didn't involve the world title. This still involves the world title, which is a complete fucking afterthought. I mentioned it at Wrestle Dream. I can't even put into words how much of an afterthought the AEW world title is to this entire show. And we got a little bit here with Jay White and MJF. That was kind of what that promo was about or whatever. And we needed that so badly, because you forget at times that this guy's the fucking champion, because it seems like the least important title to him. It seems like the tag team title, the ROH tag team titles, are more important to the character of MJF. And it's just, let's talk about it this, coming up this week. Joe, I don't know if they're going to announce it anytime soon. They didn't announce it on Dynamite, but I don't see an AEW world title match on this Title Tuesday. I'm
glad you brought that up.
Well, it's Title Tuesday, and we got the AEW Women's title, we got the AEW International title,
kinds of titles.
We got the number one contendership for the TNT title. We got titles up the wazoo here on this Title Tuesday show. But I'm looking through my notes, and I don't see it.
Well,
I don't see the world title, Joe.
You would think that the world champion and locker room leader and self-professed best guy in the locker room and good ratings getter MJF would be leading the charge next week.
Really? Yeah. Well, a lot of the top dudes. A lot of top dudes.
You would think he'd be leading the charge and going against NXT. And you would think that he would be knocking on Tony Khan's door and demanding to be put in the first quarter hour, the top of the hour in the main event. Tony, this is what I want you to do. I'm MJF. I am the good ratings getter. I am the man. He tells anyone who will listen.
He's the world champ too. He's the world champ.
He's the world champ. He's supposedly the top guy. He tells anyone who will listen how great his quarter hours are. Hey, Max, this stuff kind of sucks. Oh, but the quarter hours. Max, this stuff stinks. Oh, but the crowds pop. Okay, great. So I assume you're pounding down Tony Khan's door and demanding to be put in all the key quarter hours next week. In fact, I'm sure that MJF is telling Tony Khan, Tony, this is what we're going to do next week. We're going to keep an eye on NXT. And when John Cena's coming up, that's when I want you to put me on TV. Because I get the ratings. I get the big quarter hours. When they're going to put Cody out there, that's when I want to be out there. Put me against Cody. Put me against John Cena. Because I'm MJF and I'm the world champion and I'm better than you. And I am the good ratings getter.
Shit.
And I pop all these phenomenal quarter hours. Rich, is he advertised for the show?
He's not advertised for the show. I know MJF of a year ago sounds like the type of guy you're describing there. And no, he is not announced for it. You got Jon Moxley, who kind of the heart and soul, the beating heart of AEW. He's there. Chris Jericho, the day one guy, the guy that really put them on the map, the stamp of approval that they needed. Obviously, you have the Bucks and Omega. They're not listed on the show yet either. I don't know if they're going to get involved in anything, but I think Jericho and Moxley are two guys that you have to. If you're going all hands on deck for this Title Tuesday, you got to have Moxley, you got to have Jericho. Hangman Page and the guy you got to have in there. So you got Hangman Page versus Jay White. You have Powerhouse Hobbs versus Chris Jericho. You got Rey Fenix and Jon Moxley for the AEW International Championship. You got Bryan Danielson, obviously one of the best wrestlers ever, against Swerve Strickland, one of the hottest wrestlers in the company. They're going to have a match to be the number one contender for the TNT title, only the TNT title for them, but that's fine. Adam Copeland, new signing. You pay big bucks. You pay multiple millions of dollars to bring this guy in. He's going to be against Luchasaurus. Big time match there. Hikaru Shida.
Telling me.
And Saraya for the AEW Women's title. Paige.
What's telling me is it sounds like all hands on deck.
Feels like most hands on deck, yeah.
Where's the world champion?
Well, what is interesting about the people that I all mentioned there is there's not a whole lot of bullshit in these guys, and that might be. I wonder if that is by design of, hey, we're going up against NXT, which tends to be pretty heavy on bullshit in a lot of ways. We're going to have Phoenix versus Moxley. What are you going to get out of that match? Two guys are going to go out there and kill one another and have a great match. Swerve Strickland versus Bryan Danielson. There's going to be no shtick in that match. Those guys are going to go out there and whoop each other's ass and have a great match. Powerhouse Hobbs and Chris Jericho. Hobbs is probably going to I would assume Hobbs is going to take Jericho to the woodshed, and maybe Jericho pulls out a win at the end or whatever, but you're trying to get Powerhouse Hobbs over as the next big muscle of the Don Callis family or whatever. Jay White and Hangman Page. Those guys are going to go out there and go back and forth and beat the hell out of one another. Saraya and Hikaru Shida. Yes, Saraya is in the Outcast and all that sort of stuff. I tend to believe that that's going to be pretty non-bullshit. And actually, I wouldn't be surprised if Hikaru Shida wins and wins back the title. I don't know if that's exactly the direction they're going to go, but not a lot of bullshit. And then Adam Copeland and Luchasaurus. So you might get some Christian shenanigans there, but I feel like they're going to try to showcase Adam Copeland and show what he can do in terms of in-ring and in what he's going to do in AEW. There's no shtick. There's no bullshit. There's no wink, wink, nudge, nudge in any of those matches. Those are professional wrestling matches that they're countering NXT with, but no MJF.
No, I disagree. I think if anything's by design here, it's that MJF wants no part of this. That's what I think.
Well, he might.
If you want me to be honest.
No, you might be right, but I think also, and I don't know if it's AEW. I don't know if it's him. they probably understand that. I don't know. I don't know if they think that, hey, let's just make this a full-on professional wrestling show because that's our best chance of beating these guys in the ratings this week.
No, I think if it were up to Tony Khan, MJF would be wrestling on the show. That's what I think.
Probably.
That's what I think.
No, you're probably right.
I think.
I mean, he is very conspicuous by his absence. Maybe we'll get a pre-tape. Maybe we'll hear from MJF or whatever.
They're going to do something on Collision, and he's going to be on the show in some form. Okay, we know that. Or I assume that. If he's not on the show at all, I have to say that is one of the most deliberately cowardly things.
That's a Hulk Hogan style thing where I'm taking a vacation, brother.
This is MJ Hogan. It's
right.
MJ Hogan at this point. But I assume they're going to shoot some kind of angle on Collision or something, or they're going to advertise some kind of MJF segment. We'll hear from MJF or something late in the game. And maybe that's the strategy. Hold off the MJF announcement until sometime next week or after Collision or, whatever the case may be. All I'm saying is this is a guy who can't wait to tell you how great his quarter hours are. Why isn't he knocking down Tony Khan's door to be all over the show? Why isn't he demanding a match? Why isn't he out to prove that he's going to beat the surging NXT show this Tuesday? Why is there no trace of him yet on this show? When he's the first guy to tell everybody how great his quarter hours are and how his flavor of ice cream is successful and a winner. And listen to the crowds and look at my quarter hours. You can't find this guy with a search party on the most important show they're going to do all year. From a public perception standpoint and everything else. I'm sorry, it looks like he's ducking it. That's what it looks like. Is he ducking it? I don't know, but that's sure what it looks like.
He's very conspicuous by his absence. To grab a term from Vince McMahon, conspicuous by his absence. Yeah, it is pretty glaring.
It's totally bizarre.
It's Title Tuesday. Bizarre. Again, like I said, there's a Title Tuesday and the World Champion isn't anywhere to be seen. That, to me,
self-professed biggest ratings draw in the company.
Mm-hmm.
Who will tell anyone who will listen? Well, where are you here when they need you the most? Ducking and diving? What are we doing? I don't know. It's weird to me. So we'll see. I'm sure he'll end up in the show in some capacity, and I'm sure his quarter hour will do very well.
So next week, obviously, NXT, they have Carmelo Hayes with John Cena. So John Cena will not be wrestling. He'll be accompanying Carmelo Hayes to the ring versus Braun Breaker, who will have Paul Heyman with him on this night. So obviously just trying to get as many dudes that are in the area to come out there and do it as well. Cody Rhodes will, quote, make a major announcement, probably something related to a Dusty Classic or a Dusty Cup or whatever. And then Asuka versus Roxanne Perez so far announced for NXT. I'm sure they will load up. Becky Lynch, as I said, is still the NXT champion, so there's probably a pretty good chance that she'll be on the show. So I will see over the next couple days, and they'll promote the fuck out of it during Raw as well. They know they're not putting John Cena and Cody on the show because they're just going to say, yeah, whatever, we're just going to do our normal show. No, this thing will be. The Dom will be there, dudes will be there. They're going to definitely ramp this thing up, and I'm fascinated because they, viewership wise, NXT got more viewers this week than AEW. Now demo wise, that's always going to be tougher. I have no idea, but I think it's going to be a dogfight, man. I think NXT, you look at the ratings that they've done, the surge in the ratings that they've had. AEW's been kind of uneven, and we've talked about this for a couple of weeks now, maybe a couple months now, and people are maybe starting to finally listen to us. I think this week was maybe the eye-opening one finally for people that we have said if you track AEW's ratings, there was a long time where we used to track AEW ratings, and we would say it's so interesting. Real sports affects AEW more than it affects WWE. The WWE fans there could be a great Monday Night Football game on. There could be a big-time World Series game on. There could be some big-time NBA Finals game or whatever. But Raw, that audience will mostly stay the same. They'll get hit during Monday Night Football, of course. But for the most part, they will stay the same regardless of what a big-time sport thing was. AEW is not the case. If there was some big-time sport or a presidential debate or whatever on a Wednesday, they would get slaughtered by that thing. And sports always affected them more than anything. Little by little, sports have not affected AEW nearly as much. Now the biggest thing that affects AEW ratings is a WWE show. Whether it's be an NXT show, a show in England, a WWE PLE, an NXT PLE, whatever it may be, the thing that affects AEW ratings more than anything right now is something happening in WWE. Not sports as much.
I think their audience has changed.
Absolutely.
And I've had this discussion with people. I think their audience has changed. I was stunned at the effect that WWE pay-per-views have had on Collision.
This week was the eye-opening one for a lot of people, because what happened was Collision had a few of those weeks where they were up against college football, and it was like, oh man, they're going to get slaughtered by college football. That's just what's going to happen. And I kind of thought the same thing as well. And then they started to tick up a little bit, even during good college football games, even during some good weeks. And it was like, oh, all right, well, hold on a minute. Collision's kind of stabilized at 500,000, 600,000, even during a big time loaded college football night. So, okay, maybe this is good. And then this week comes and it's 300,000 total viewers. And I forget the demo number, but it was some shit demo number. And it was like, holy fuck, they lost half their audience to No Mercy, right? Like their same good college football games were on both nights. Big time college football is on both nights. They lost half their audience to NXT No Mercy.
And I really don't think that would have been the case in 2019.
Hell no.
Or 2021
no.
even. I don't think that. I think the audience has changed. And I think it's partly a self-fulfilled prophecy with a lot of this type of stuff, that the show has changed to some degree and continues to change. And it's drawing more of that kind of fan. And I think it has pushed away some of the fans who just want to see pro wrestling, and I think it has pushed some people like us away. And I think that is what has a lot to do with what's happening to Collision when they go up against WWE shows. And I think if I had to make a prediction right now, I think NXT is going to wipe the floor with them next week. It's NXT's night, right? It's Tuesday, correct?
Correct.
First, that's one huge advantage.
Yep. So normal night for NXT and an irregular night for Dynamite.
Irregular night. So that right there, boom, you're behind the 8 ball. Number 2, coming into this week, NXT just did more total viewers than AEW did this past week. The numbers that came in today. So they've got momentum coming into the week. And number 3, they've totally loaded it up with John Cena and Cody and Paul Heyman. And, I assume Becky Lynch is going to be on the show, right? She's the fucking champion.
Yeah. She's not announced yet, but I would almost be positive that I think, because if we'll talk about it during a No Mercy review, if you're not going to move that title to Stratton that week, it's because you want Becky Lynch to pop a few more numbers for you, particularly this week as NXT champion. So, yeah.
Dominic won his title back, didn't he? So it's like,
Trick beat him at the pay-per-view and Dom won it back. So, yep.
Right, so you're gonna have all they're totally loading it up. They're on their night.
The fuck out of it on Raw, by the way. If you don't think they're gonna talk about that thing all the time,
they have every advantage here. And where is MJF? You can't find him with a search party. I just think it's a bad look, man. It's a bad look. And look, this might be a dated piece of audio in 48 hours when they announce something on Collision, or maybe on Monday or Tuesday, they'll say that MJF's going to be on the show. I'm sure he'll be on it in some capacity. If he's not, that is really, really telling. If he's not on the show at all, it's really, really telling. And you really have to question his guts if he's not on the show at all. But I mean, I'm sure he'll be on the show in some capacity, but he's not going to have a match. There's already 6 matches announced. They already have 6 matches announced. So he's going to be in a segment. There's not going to be a ton of time for segments with 6 matches on the show, especially 6 matches of those caliber. So is he going to have his traditional segment at the top of the hour that goes 19 minutes or whatever? I don't even think there's going to be time for that. I don't know, man. It looks shady to me. We got a little MJ Hogan here.
This is a Hogan move, man.
This is a Hogan move. Okay, as is making sure you're in the openers on the pay-per-views after All In. The pay-per-view that comes a week after All In that you don't think is going to do well. And then Wrestle Dream a month later. Making sure you're as far away from those main events as you can get. I'm just saying. Like we talked about, like OJ. I'm just saying. It's like OJ on Twitter.
Yeah, two matches when you get 70,000 plus in the building, but openers the rest of the times, and that world title can't. Squinting to see that world title. Okay, yeah, I guess we're not going to defend that world title on any of these shows ever. That's fine. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure he'll be there. I'm super curious. Because Swerve is on. Not Swerve. Jay White. Jay White is wrestling.
Hangman.
Swerve is wrestling.
Swerve is wrestling Danielson. Jay White's against Hangman.
Right. So Jay White's wrestling Hangman. So I'm sure MJF will have something to do with that. You would think, after starting the program with Switchblade and already announcing the match and everything. But I mean, maybe not. I mean, it'll say a lot if he's not there. I think right now, if I had to make a prediction, I think NXT is going to wipe the floor with them.
I would say
too much working against AEW.
A lot working against them. AEW's got that momentum going, or NXT has that momentum going. They're going to load this thing up. They're going to bring big. Cena is still a very tangible draw. No matter what people, Reigns, you can talk about Reigns for whatever, but we say anytime you announce Cena, you put Cena on a show, he drives numbers, and Cody drives numbers. I think there'll be particular interest in seeing Cody on a Tuesday going up against AEW. Will he say something? What is he going to say? Is he going to give any sort of backhanded, oh man, I totally see the interest in that. I would absolutely see it. And again, like I said, they're going to promote the shit out of it on Raw. So yeah, I'm with you that I think NXT, they beat them in total viewers this week with a show that wasn't loaded up with a lot of stuff, and it's going to be AEW going to an unfamiliar night, like you said. And yeah, I agree. I think NXT is going to wipe the floor with them. And I don't know, maybe this is an eye-opening night, and maybe this gets us back on the right path, but I don't know, probably not. So we'll just continue to move on. And
maybe he's not. Maybe he's blowing up Tony Khan's phone, saying, "Tony, put me on the show, man. Put me in quarter hours 1, 4, 5, and 8. I'm begging you, Tony. Let me lead us into battle. I am the good ratings getter. Look at my quarter hours. Let's do this." Maybe he's doing that. Maybe Tony's like, "No, Max, no, you need the week off." I don't know. Maybe that's the case. What do you think? Maybe he's begging. I want to take him on, Tony. Let's take him down. Let's go. You can count on me. You're world champion. I am your bastard.
It's
whatever
just
his catchphrase is. You count on me, Tony. Let's do it.
Scumbag. Yeah,
I'm your scumbag, Tony. I'm your scumbag, you fucking Mark. Let's do it. Maybe that's what's happening. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Title Tuesday. I may put the World Championship on the line on Title Tuesday in the big times ratings war against NXT. And you can't say they're not trying. Like some people might say, well, they don't have to unload everything just for NXT.
Oh, they're not punting.
Motherfucker, look at this lineup. Jay White versus Hangman Page, Swerve versus Bryan Danielson. Those are two pay-per-view. We always rag on Tony for not booking big-time singles matches on his TVs or big-time singles matches in between pay-per-views, and you could do that. Motherfucker, Swerve versus Danielson, you could have easily done that on a pay-per-view. Jay White and Hangman Page, you can easily do that on a pay-per-view. Phoenix and Moxley, they've done it on TV. They could have held that one off for a pay-per-view since this is a rematch. I mean, just Swerve and Danielson and White and Hangman are like fucking pay-per-view level matches. Swerve and Danielson, are you kidding me? They're not punting it. They're not anywhere near punting this show. Are you kidding? I know.
Look, if he's not on the show or he's not in a prominent position and they get slaughtered, he could say, "Oh well, see."
Yeah, well, shit. See, you need me.
Yeah, I mean that's the game. That's been
classic yeah, I was gonna say that's it. That's classic NWO Hogan.
Back?
Yeah.
Hogan's move coming back right after football ended every year.
Oh yeah, every year.
The Nitro right after Monday Night Football.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, Voodoo Child playing on the speakers. Hey, there's old Hulkster.
Yeah. I'll say this, and this. Listen, I promise I'm not taking a shot at you here. I'm going to say this though. Adam Copeland so far, nothing but impressive. Small sample size.
Yeah, the promo's good. I'll admit it.
That Christian segment obviously was the highlight of Dynamite. Okay. But did you see him at the presser after the pay-per-view?
That was good stuff. I will admit that was good stuff from him.
Man, you can't look. His attitude is obviously great.
But does he just know that's what people want to hear too?
Listen, they're pro wrestlers, Rich.
Tokyo Dome, Okada. He's a worker. He's a professional wrestler. Do remember
Big
that.
Smile on his face, great attitude. He's saying all the right things. Is all I'm saying. He's saying all the right things. He's coming across genuine. Is some of that performative? Is some of that performative for the fans? Is some of that performative for the boys in the back? Of course, it's pro wrestling. You always have to consider that stuff. But I will say, the little that we've seen from him so far, this is why I will remain open-minded. That's all. I'm going to remain open-minded. The minute he pulls out a stool, I'm out.
But he's grabbing his hair. Pull out.
Got the haircut, though. He got the haircut.
He did get the haircut, yeah. So it's going to be tough to see.
Look, this is not this guy's been around the block. He changed his look. You know what I mean? Like, he knows what he's doing. Like, he's presenting a new version of himself, and he's saying all the right things. And, like you're saying, he's bringing up, oh, I've never worked a Wrestle Kingdom. Like, what if, like
right, it is Adam Copeland voice. I'd love to face Kazuchika Okada at the Tokyo Dome. It's like, okay, brother, all right. It's like, last night on Dynamite, this is going to sound weird maybe. The vibes he was giving me were Mick Foley. I was listening to him talk, and I'm like, he's coming across like Mick Foley in a weird way, and then he was gassed too. He got in the ring with Shivani and he was, Tony, I love you, but you got to hit the bricks in between heaving. That man was gassed from his ring entrance. So he better get back in the gym with his boys FTR and get the cardio back up. Because remember, he's tight with FTR. Oh, yeah. They were more than happy to Phil's gone, and then there's that clip of them going, hugging him when he's ready to go. So they got their new boys. Top guys have their new favorite boys in town here. So that's
absolutely. But listen, he's saying all the right things.
Yeah.
Did
he get them to 4,000 for that Stockton show last night or what?
He didn't. They got to 38.25.
Darn. Well.
Yeah.
Maybe next week.
Now listen. 1,000 tickets distributed after he was announced for the show. Are you impressed or not impressed?
Yeah, that's impressive. I mean, good Lord. Can you imagine if he wasn't?
I know.
They were going to put 3,000 people in that building?
Less. Like 2,800. We just talked about the AWA doing 2,800 in the Cow Palace.
And laughing about them, saying they should close up shop. Like they walked to that Cow Palace and said, it's all over. Close up shop when they had 28,000.
That show was such a bomb that Russ Francis retired. Vern Gagne stopped going to San Francisco, and the company closed a year and a half later.
Right.
And they almost did 2,800. If it wasn't for Edge, they would have done 2,800 last night. So I don't know. Maybe Max needs to pay more attention to the ticket sales.
Holy shit. Have you seen what next week looks like? Independence, Missouri?
Tell the people, because I already know.
Oh, my God. All right. So the setup for Independence, Missouri is 3,200. Thus far, they've distributed, this is 8 hours ago, per WrestleTix, 2,146.
It's not good, man.
Last time they were there, they had 39,000 or 3,900, not 39,000. That'd be a big number for the Cable Dahmer Arena in Independence, Missouri. 3,912 last time they were there.
Yeah, that was in March. You know the significance of that show.
Oh, of course I do. Yeah, that was the let's all get microphones in the ring, 4 pillars, and talk about why we deserve to be in the main event. The 4 pillars.
The show I identified as the beginning of this television problem that they have struggled with for the rest of the year. We've come full circle and we're back in Independence, Missouri. Bring back the red, white, and blue ropes, baby. Bring them back.
Why not? Fuck it. Why not? Great, man. They're at 2,146, man. They don't even have things set up for what they did last time they were there. About 1,000 less they've set up for. So they already, right out of the gates, for Title Tuesday, that show that we just told you about, they're just like, whatever. Well, it's just 3,200 people, whatever.
How do you feel about the revisionist history of Edge and Christian being the greatest tag team of all time?
Oh, my God.
Here, I have a challenge for.
There was definitely some people on Twitter too that were like, yeah. It's definitely, I mean, them or the Hardys. It's them or the Hardys for sure.
I would ask any of those people to name their favorite Edge and Christian match that didn't involve a ladder.
Right.
In fact, I'll take it a step further. Name an Edge and Christian match that didn't involve a ladder.
Right.
Just give me one. Just say one. I mean, let alone one that
we'll be here. Yeah, we'll be here.
Yeah. Now, listen, those were obviously highly influential matches. Some of the greatest matches in the history of that company. I would never take that away. But, and look, if you're AEW, your job is to promote. I understand. Okay, but they are not one of the greatest tag teams of all time by any stretch of the imagination. I'm trying to think of, should I do the old Dylan Hales gimmick? How many tag teams do you think I can name that were better than Edge and Christian until I start to get to tag teams that might be better than Edge and Christian? That's actually more of a Bill James gimmick.
Yeah.
But you think I can get to 100?
Are we going to do this?
No, I'm not going to name them.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that'd take a long time. That's
hypothetically. Do you think I would be able to get to 100?
Hypothetically, you I think could get to 100. Yes, because you are
I confidently name 100 teams that were definitely better than Edge and Christian.
I think you could.
100.
I think maybe over the weekend you should do a thought experiment on our Patreon and just write them down. You know what I mean? You don't have to explain every single team. Just sit down and write them all out and see what happens.
Do you think I could get to 150?
150. I think you're going to get I would say that somewhere in like the 115, 120 range, you might start thinking about Edge and Christian a little bit.
Okay, so around the 115 range is where you start naming teams and you're like, they might have been better than Edge and Christian. Like where it's debatable.
Yeah, I think so. If you're counting Mexico, Japan, US, everything.
Baby.
Yeah, worldwide. Yeah, it's going to be 115, 120 before you're like, all right, maybe. These guys are pretty close. So
see, I think confidently there's 300 teams historically.
300.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100 is not that many. When you really think about it. I there's probably 50 current tag teams better than Edge and Christian. Is that pushing it? I mean, I don't know if that's even pushing it. Can I give you an example of what I mean when I say that?
Yeah. No, you're probably you're
when the rubber hits the road, and if I put the proverbial gun to your head, who's a better tag team with a better resume? Edge and Christian or the Astronauts?
Yeah, the Astronauts.
See what I mean? I think I can get to like 50 now.
Yeah, right. Considering you started with the Astronauts,
like whose comp tape would you rather watch?
Yeah, the Astronauts, 100%. No, I mean, hold on a minute. Yeah, I think I'd like to watch. Well, man, it's hard to say because the problem is like as a kid,
take away the ladders.
We're taking away ladders, right? Or you just say, well, the comp tape's going to have the ladder matches. Like I'm saying. But the problem that I'm going to say is that, like, when I was young, I love those matches. I had the fucking ladder match DVD they came out with, WWE when they came out with it. I had an Edge of Christian comp tape, I believe, even at that time, or maybe it was some sort of best matches of WWE in the year 2000 VHS or whatever. I love those matches then. That is me when I was, 14 and 23 years ago, and about 10,000 ladder matches since then that I've watched. So, that novelty might wear off a little bit. And the idea of watching a comp tape that's just a bunch of, Edge and Christian ladder matches, that might not have the same appeal to me. So yeah, maybe I would watch the Astronauts tape before I'd watch the Edge and Christian tape.
I like Edge and Christian, but Edge and Christian are better in theory than what they really put on tape.
People remember them doing the 5-second pose and the goofy kazoos and the Los Conquistadors gimmick that they did for a little bit and that sort of stuff.
Legitimately smart and funny stuff.
Yes.
That I enjoyed. Take away the ladder matches and tell me your favorite Edge and Christian match. I challenge anyone. This is all I'm saying. They're better in theory than in practice is all I'm saying. And obviously stuff that didn't involve bell to bell. That's all. I like them. I like both of those guys well enough from that era.
Good podcast too. Good TV show. That the TV show they had on the network was
WWE Network show
was very good.
Was very funny.
Yeah,
very funny.
Legitimately funny.
Yeah. Anyway, what else we got here?
Well, that's NXT and WWE coming up next week, so we'll talk about that, I'm sure, on the flagship next week. Well, we're talking NXT. Let's continue it. NXT No Mercy, the premium live event, Saturday. Of course, destroyed Collision's number, just absolutely cut into it immensely. And main event, you had Becky Lynch versus Tiffany Stratton. You had Ilya Dragunov versus Carmelo Hayes. People love this show. I watched it. I think it was fine. Like I saw a lot of people really praising this show before I had watched it, like watching it in real time and being like, oh my God, what an unbelievable show. Not quite that. I mean, Wrestle Dream was 10,000 times better than this show, right? Like anybody who making any kind of one-to-one comparison between Wrestle Dream and No Mercy, I don't know if you should listen to that person anymore. Cause I
don't know. I don't think the kind of people who enjoy our podcast would make that one-to-one comparison. I will say that compared to other NXT premium live events,
It's gross. Yeah, by the way, when we say that, we're doing it with like the tongue in the cheek and groaning and disdain. Yes. Do not like there's people earnestly calling them premium live events. Just let it be known that when we call them premium live events, we're rolling our eyes and we're laughing and we're I want to vomit every time I do it. So just so you know.
This was better than your standard NXT premium live event / pay-per-view.
Definitely.
And I thought the final 2 matches were really good. And I thought, to me, there was only one match on the show that I didn't think that I thought was bad. And of course it involved Dominic. So, and the rest of it was just fine. So was it as good as Wrestle Dream? No, it wasn't anywhere in the same universe as Wrestle Dream, but NXT, listen, I watched almost 2 months worth of NXT to prepare for my preview of this show last week when you were gone. And granted, here's the giant disclaimer. I fast forwarded anything that involved someone that I know stinks. And I fast forwarded most of the little sketches or vignettes or skits that they do. So with that disclaimer, I thought the TV wasn't nearly as bad as it used to be.
You only watched it for 10 minutes every week, though.
I'm watching
it's
like
not a bad show. You can watch it in 10 minutes if you.
I'm watching like 35 minutes of a 2-hour
skip
show.
everybody who stinks. Yeah, that's not too bad.
So that is a giant disclaimer. But this pay-per-view I didn't think was that bad, and in fact, I thought the main event was great. I thought the Becky Lynch Tiffany Stratton match.
That was going to be my hot take. Is everyone's giving?
You go first.
Well, everyone's giving Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes all these flowers and talking about how it's one of the most brutal matches they've ever seen and one of the best, one of the best NXT matches ever and all this sort of stuff. I think that match was good. I think it was really, really good. Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes. I think Lynch and Stratton blew that match away, and I cannot believe that I'm going to come on this show. And I couldn't believe when I was watching it. I was like, God damn it, I'm going to come onto the show and talk about an Extreme Rules match in WWE that features people going through barricades and people going through tables and people hitting each other with kendo sticks and people spraying fire extinguishers at one another, because that is like every single Extreme Rules match you've ever had in this entire company. Any single hardcore match, every single weapons, wild match, all this other bullshit that they do in NXT and WWE. This is every one of those matches because it contains all those other things. But this was not every one of those matches. This was really good. And I cannot believe that I'm going to say that. I cannot even believe that when that match was over, I went, holy shit, that match fucking rocked. I think Becky was fantastic in it, and I think Tiffany Stratton is... They got something with her. You got to get the robotic Barbie voice has got to go. And I don't know if that's her real voice or I don't know if that's just her character voice or whatever. I don't like that shit. I think it's terrible. They probably love it in that company. Other than that, I think she's ready to go if you need anything else. Like I think in terms of carrying herself like a star, in terms of what she can do in the ring, in terms of selling, in terms of offense, in terms of charisma, all that sort of stuff, she's got it. The robotic Barbie voice is about the only thing that I think she doesn't have right now. And that's pretty unbelievable given where she was just a year ago. So credit to them and credit to her.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the Stratton bandwagon for a while. She's going to be a massive star. I don't think there's any doubt.
She was more impressive than Becky in that match. And I thought Becky was very good. But when it was over, it was like, holy fuck, like Tiffany Stratton's a star if they want her to be.
Yeah, she's coming along very nicely. She was always a blue chip A++ prospect. I've written about her a million times. And it was very obvious in this match. It's funny because people were very high on the title change that aired on TV, and I didn't think a ton of that match. I thought it was fine.
Nah, I didn't love that match. I didn't love that match.
Yeah, I'm the same. I thought that match was overrated. You got to be careful with NXT. People severely overrated.
People really want to like NXT for some reason, man. I don't know why they want to love it so bad. It's like, all right, reel it in, man. It's not that good. It's okay.
Yeah, they severely overrate it. But this match legitimately was great. And I agree with you that it was better than the Ilya Dragunov Carmelo Hayes match, which I had. I saw Brian Alvarez call this the most physical match in WWE history. Did he not watch the Ilya Dragunov Walter matches?
Yeah, I was going to say.
They were more physical than this one.
Yeah.
And most of Ilya listen, I'm not trying to knock this match. I had this match at 4 1/4. Okay.
It was one of the tamest Dragunov matches I've seen of him in this entire recent memory of like all of his big time matches. This is like, I don't know, just as physical as all. I'm talking about like main event level, high level title matches or whatever. yeah, this was no. I mean, hell, their one at Great American Bash, I think, felt a little bit more physical and I don't know. I was kind of shocked when I saw Brian say that. I was like, I don't know. Did you miss all the Walter matches? Because I think those those were like sickening. Some of those were like some of those Capital Wrestling ones. There's that one, I forget what it is. I think
the pandemic one from NXT
oh my
UK
god, yeah,
that was a 5-star match. I mean, and was one of the most brutal. That was probably the most brutal match.
Exactly the one I was thinking of is like watching. That was one of those matches that it was enhanced by it being during the pandemic.
Yes,
it's like
oddly enough, yes.
What are these guys? These guys are just in this weird room, fucking killing each other. It's just
two guys in a dungeon bludgeoning one another.
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck? And it ruled. Right. You were like, this is better, because in front of a crowd it would have been cool because the crowd would have, but it was like even better because it's like, what are these idiots doing? Why are they doing this to themselves? They don't have to do this.
Two guys in a dungeon bludgeoning one another, and it's like, am I on Pornhub or the network?
Right. Why am I watching this? Why am I enjoying this? What's wrong with me?
Yeah, and so this wasn't at that level from a physicality standpoint. The one thing you have to remember, and I just used Brian's tweet because, he's a big time pundit and he can handle
everyone ragging on Brian this week. Yeah, Christian Rail taking the guy over the coals. You got it.
Yeah, but it's like he wasn't alone. It's like, here's what I think happens sometimes too with NXT. Like, WWE fans aren't used to a match like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's like, we see, like, to me, that, the Dragunov Carmelo Hayes match was like a higher end Noah N1 match. That's what it was. It was Go Shiozaki and Manabu Soya just chopping the shit out of each other and doing some meat slapping wrestling. That's kind of what it was. It wasn't some super over the top physical match that made my skin crawl. But if you're a WWE fan, I can kind of see where you might think that. If you're Brian Alvarez, who I can guarantee you wasn't watching NXT UK and isn't locked into the N1.
Right. Probably not watching too much N1 over there in the Alvarez household.
Right. Like, and again, that's not me picking on him. So
yeah, Brian's favorite Kano match. What do you think Brian's favorite Kano match was of the last couple years? Yeah,
exactly. But so I preferred the Becky Lynch Tiffany Stratton match. And like you, I was stunned because I'm like, ugh, WWE, it's Extreme Rules. This is gonna fucking stink. But I don't know. We must be sharing a brain here because it didn't. Most of their types of match, but Becky has just been working her ass off lately. I mean, she tried so hard to bleed in that cage match last month or whenever it was. And she couldn't. She tried to bleed hard way and she couldn't get herself to bleed.
Right, because you can't blade in that company. So they think the safest, less barbaric way is to throw your head into a steel cage until it busts open hard way. And she tried like hell until she had a just gigantic fucking knob on her forehead. And then she never quite got that. Never got the blood flowing, unfortunately. But
to be fair, they don't want them doing that either. But these wrestlers want to have artistic merit to their matches and they want to do things like that. Becky Lynch wants to be a pro wrestler and bleed, and it's they're not telling her to go out there and you can't run the razor, but go out there and smash your face into the kid. Like, they don't want her to do that either, but she's been working really hard. And I thought that this match was, it blew me away with how great it was. And I did think it was better than the Dragunov Hayes match, but they were both great matches, well worth anybody's time. Moving down the card,
real quick on the main event. Real quick, were you kind of surprised that they did not move the title to Stratton here? Because I think this would have been a great opportunity to do it. Aside from the fact that you have AEW coming up this week and the tangible ratings draw and Becky, this felt like a moment to have Stratton win it back. But there's time.
Maybe, but I don't know if they're going to put her on the main roster or not. So it could be losing up.
True.
But yeah, and to be, I got to be honest, I don't think too hard about what they're going to do with these NXT titles. But I think that it's possible that maybe she's just not going to be. I think she's ready to move up.
Oh, she's ready. She's ready. Move her up.
So from that standpoint. Now, as far as the Heritage Cup, I love that gimmick. Did you watch any? I know the answer. Why am I even asking? Did you watch any of like their fake G1 thing for the
No, I had a perverse interest in it, but I never ended up actually watching it. But Joe Gagney kept me updated on a lot of it, so
you didn't miss anything. It was very disappointing. The Akira Tozawa matches were all on Level Up. I wanted to see the Akira Tozawa matches, and I wanted to watch Regal's kid, and most of their matches were relegated to Level Up.
Well, I do know that because I was doing Cruiserweight Classic stuff for the Sky's the Limit series and had to update people that Akira Tozawa, his current WWE run, is happening on Level Up, which was just absolutely disturbing, and I wanted to cry.
And he didn't score any points, and the one match he wrestled on TV was basically a squash. But Butch got through the tournament. And the Butch Tyler Bate match in the tournament was very disappointing too. Just to think that they had like one of the greatest matches you'll ever see. That you were there live, I think.
Yeah, oh yeah, fucking incredible. And one of my favorite matches to be at live, because I remember when those guys hit the ring, it was me, my friends, and like 12 other people that were like, yeah, let's go, because nobody knew who these fuckers were, but we did, and we were like, hey, this is gonna be awesome. And then by the time that was over, that entire arena was chanting UK, and it's just like going absolutely fucking nuts about that match and those guys. So yeah, that's always one of my great, like building a crowd and getting a crowd and gaining a crowd throughout a wrestling match. That was one of my favorite, and you could hear it. I went back and watched it, and it holds up. It holds up as well. That like you could hear in the building, not many people care at the beginning, and by the end, it just goes absolutely fucking bonkers in that arena. But well, now with Tyler Bate, he's aged 27 years in the last 5, so that it's not going well for him. So
yeah, I've liked some of the other Heritage Cup matches better than this one. This one didn't do much for me. I thought
never ended. I can't believe. Can you? I copy and pasted this from Cage Match. This says that this match was only 15 minutes and 53 seconds. I don't believe that.
Well, I got the rounds, and it's
this thing never fucking ended. It was I didn't love this either. I thought there was a kernel of a good match in here, but when it was all done, Vic Joseph summed it up perfectly. He said, it took 7 people to beat Butch tonight. And I was like, yep, it kind of did. And that's kind of why I was over it. It's, this.
I don't know why they did non-Heritage Cup rules in the tournament to determine the Heritage Cup challenger. They just did regular matches with 12-minute time limits.
It's Shawn Michaels NXT, baby. You just got to. The Iron Challenge Survivor thing is coming back again. Did you see that?
Oh god,
we could do the rule thing. Mess. Very easy to understand rules to that again. I can't.
Very
wait.
easy. Very easy.
Right. It's simple, really. I thought if you just let Noam Dar and Butch have a wrestling match, I think it would probably be better than this every other time. But they wanted to get Metaphor and all those guys involved, and Gallus had to get involved, and Noam Dar had to cheat and be a chicken shit the entire time. So I don't know. I didn't land with me. I also love how they're still calling him Butch, but making it clear that it's Pete Dunne.
Yeah,
and cutting promos,
NXT
he's like,
champion.
I used to be here, now I'm coming back, and I'm like, oh good, he's Pete Dunne again, and then it's like Butch, and I'm like, what? And so they're still calling him Butch? Like, what are we doing?
He's also Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I don't know what that was.
I used to be here. Now I'm coming back. Yeah, it's not a tumor.
Yeah, right.
But
they're doing this promo, and I'm like, all right, here we go. And then he comes out and he looks like Pete Dunne, and I'm like, all right, he's Pete Dunne again. And they're like, it's Butch, and I was like, oh, all right. Or the growling ring announcer lady goes, it's Butch. And I was like,
fucking hate her.
The worst.
I hate her so much.
Carmelo, hey!
Oh my god, just say the fucking name.
Right.
What does that add to anything?
I don't know. It's the house style though too.
Yeah, they do it. They have the one on the main roster who does that.
Mm-hmm. And there was a while where the backstage girl, the one that left and then came back, what's her face? Kathy Kelly. Kathy Kelly. She was doing ring announcing for a while, and she would growl on NXT. She would growl. So they tell you to growl.
She was growling too. Okay.
It's a house style to growl. I don't understand. When you say a name, growl. Why is that being told to people? But it is. And Alicia Taylor of NXT is absolutely the worst. But yeah, you can run down the rest of the card.
God, I would if I ever like if I hypothetically took over the company, I would fire her into the sun immediately. She'd be the first person I'd fire. And then the one from Raw can go too.
Yeah, right. Sorry.
God.
Sorry, Rick O'Shea.
One first.
Yeah. Oh yeah, NXT one for sure. And then sorry, Rick O'Shea, but your lady's getting the pink slip. So
4-way NXT tag title gimmick. I don't know. We talked about this when we talked about Wrestle Dream. I'm just over these kinds of matches. It was fine, I guess.
My eyes glaze over.
Like,
yeah, my eyes glaze over.
What do you think of Out the Mud?
Out the Mud. Yeah, I think this is the first time of seeing Out the Mud. And Booker T, it appears to be Booker T's first time ever seeing that either. Even though I know it's not, but he's a revelation on NXT commentary, man. Every match is a new match for him. He doesn't know any of the rules. He knows nothing going on. Vic Joseph just increasingly getting more annoyed by him, and it's not even like the playful Gorilla and Bobby stuff. It's like Booker T was like, "Oh, he's a 4-time champion, Vic. He's a 4-time champion, Vic." And Vic just stops for a second, goes, 3-time champion, Book. It's just like,
yeah.
He's like, I know what I said, Vic. It's just like, what is? It's just so bad. I mean, Vic's just lost. Yeah, Out the Mud. They were not very good. I couldn't believe Scripps. I saw Scripps out there, and I was like, I swore Scripps got released, but Scripps did not get released. Apparently, I thought he was.
Scripps manages Out the Mud.
I swore Scripps was one of the guys that got released.
Do you see their customized NXT nameplates are in the style of Grand Theft Auto?
I do. Yeah, a little
Out the Mud. Yes.
Out the Mud. If you've never seen Out the Mud, they look like what was the name of Camacho and the Tongan guys that were told to be what were those guys' names? It was Camacho. Yeah, well, who's the other one? Wasn't there another guy? I forget if there was another guy or just Camacho.
Who did Tangaloa team with?
Yes, when he was a fake Hispanic guy.
It was the Sin Cara.
Hunico, right? Yes.
Yeah.
They kind of have like that vibe going, where it's just like somebody that
they wear like street clothes,
right? Somebody that knows nothing about street culture that they didn't know from Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Like that's their frame of reference for.
Their vibe is 1991 Los Angeles street culture.
Right. There's somebody that wants.
Yeah. Led to the Ring by Scripps.
But also Scripps is there too. So.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like the Creeds. Are we going to shit or get off the pot? They've been in NXT for 10 years. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, Out the Mud is if your only frame of reference for anything urban is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas and Boys in the Hood, that's what Out of the Mud is.
Pretty much. Out the Mud, yes.
Right.
That's the aesthetic.
This match, who cares? It's just whatever.
Yeah, the Creeds feel like they've been there forever, and I feel like if you don't think they're ready now, but I don't know. I don't even care. Why am I talking about this?
Right. You got 10,000 people there. You could probably just release them if you don't think they're ready. But anyway.
Trick Williams beats Dom. He lost it back on TV. I've been a big proponent of Trick Williams basically since he debuted. I still say he has more upside than Carmelo Hayes. That's no guarantee, though, because Carmelo Hayes, to me, has the higher floor.
Yes.
Because he's more of a finished product, but I don't see any more.
Trick is pretty rough still. Trick is pretty rough.
Trick is green as fuck, okay? And that's the thing. He has a really long way to go. Like, he is a developmental. Like, the Creeds, they don't need to be there. Tiffany Stratton, she needs to move on. Trick Williams has legitimate years of work to do. And I don't know if he's going to get there. But this match wasn't any good. It's a Dominic Mysterio match, so he just is what he is, and he just stinks. And none of his matches are never good. And Dragon Lee took the biggest bump in the match as the referee.
Yes, because by the way, Dragon Lee was the special guest referee with his mask and the little referee shirt. So it's like, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you watch the TV, which you didn't, I don't blame you for it. It made sense, kind of. But
it's just
Mustafa
funny.
Ali just disappeared.
Oh yeah, where did he go? Yeah.
I don't know what happened to him. But and then we had Baron Corbin and Braun Breaker in the opener.
I did not hate that match.
It's fine.
It was pretty okay, and I probably would have had Braun beat him, but they're going for heat, capital H heat. There
through the set.
Yeah.
Was that on TV? I can't remember.
I think that was on the TV. Yeah. Here, I forget what Baron did to win here, but he nefariously defeated Braun here. But Breaker looked good. Good enough. Okay. Yeah. He's not that dude. There's no main roster in his future. You know what I mean? Like he's just a dude. That's fine.
Who, Braun Breaker?
Yeah. He's just.
I mean, people think he's going to be a megastar.
Nah, he ain't a megastar.
I mean, he will be if they want him to be, because it doesn't really. They just say who's a megastar.
That's true.
You just have to. So it's just a matter of
saying it enough and giving them spots to do it, and then playing thunderous applause to .wave, and then whatever.
Right. So I mean, the show had 2 great matches at the back end, and it was a perfectly fine show before that. I think that a lot of times WWE fans, who don't watch a lot of other stuff, they see a show like this and they think it's like really great because it's just a frame of reference thing, is what I think it is. Even a lot of people who in the wrestling media and stuff who watch, some of them only watch WWE and AEW, and they often prefer WWE's presentation and all this other bullshit that we hate. So to them, it lifts these shows up, So I will say the best thing about this is there was no Roxanne Perez. We were spared Roxanne Perez on this show, which is always a good thing. Did you watch? I have a really weird comp for you. You ready for this one?
Let's do it.
Tall Gun? The taller...
Austin, I believe, is the tall one, right?
Yeah, the one that has no prayer of being a saint.
Right, Colton, maybe, but Well, actually, shit, is it Colton? I don't know which one is which. Sorry.
That's why I said Tall Gun. I don't know who they are.
The Tall Gun, I know who you're talking about, yeah. I don't know which one's the tall one, actually.
The next time Tall Gun is given the microphone, you're never going to be able to unsee this thing.
Oh, no.
Or unhear it. And they should probably stop giving him the mic because he's terrible and he's never going to be a good talker.
I think
Short Gun can talk.
I think Colton's the tall one. I think Colton's the tall one again.
I'm sticking with tall and short.
Okay, that's probably a better move.
Short Gun can talk. Short Gun has a good look. Short Gun has some energy. He's got a chance. Tall Gun has no chance. But my point here is they give Tall Gun the mic. He promos exactly like Roxanne Perez. And I know that sounds wacky. But the next time you hear Tall Gun with that, next time he has the microphone, listen. Same cadence, same everything.
That's not good.
Tall Gun and Roxanne Perez. Same promos.
Did you see Roxanne got her big promo on this? I did see that clip. People send me Roxanne Perez promos now all the time.
She means business now, Rich.
She goes,
she means business.
I know you have all of your accolades, Becky Lynch, but now you are in NXT, where I have also been the NXT. It's just like, God, what is happening here?
Yeah, awful.
I have been as nice as I could possibly be, but now I mean business. You're in my town. You're in my world. This is my company. Yeah. It's like, okay. Okay, Roxy, Prodigy. All right, anyway. There you go.
Not exactly, Buddy Rose wanting the new guy in the territory. Ugh. So bad.
Well, that was NXT.
But this was, by NXT standards, this was a good show.
No, most of the time when we do these NXT PLE reviews,
I want to hang myself.
Yeah, we're like, all right, we could never watch these again. This got to be the last one we watch, right? I didn't have that thing. After this, I was like, you know what? This is a pretty decent professional wrestling show. So that again, startling given where NXT was a year ago, where AEW was a year ago, and now it's like, shit. NXT's got some stuff that's actually good. It's pretty wild, but there you go. Well, I know I'll be channel flipping next Tuesday as well, which, by the way, NXT television fucking stinks, by the way. So that I'm not planning on doing a whole lot of. It's a little better. I'm not planning on doing a whole lot of channel changing though. But if
you skip everything that's bad, like I did, it's a little better, which probably isn't fair. But
Well, speaking of PLEs, Joe, we have one coming up from WWE this weekend that I'm sure everybody knows about this and nobody forgot about this at all. Roadblock End of the Line coming up this weekend on Peacock, peacock.tv.com. By the way, we got that the WWE shop link. People were asking us, hey, how can I buy WWE merchandise from you guys? You can. Starting tomorrow, voiceswrestling.com/WWE. So if you want day one-ish shirts or whatever fucking LA Knight shirt there is, all available at voicesofwrestling.com/WWE. So we'll try to make sure that we integrate plugs in the future when we see a particularly great WWE shop shirt. We'll try to do that. But voicesofwrestling.com/WWE tomorrow. By the time most of you guys listen to this, we'll be live and you can purchase any WWE Shop material there. So Roadblock end of the line, main evented by John Cena and LA Knight versus Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. Thoughts, Joe, about that?
John Cena and LA Knight.
John Cena and LA Knight will be facing Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa in a tag team professional wrestling match at the PLE.
They sure will.
They absolutely will.
They sure will. John Cena's back. I mean, I don't know. I don't care. I don't know what to add. Jimmy Uso,
Knight.
Solo Sikoa.
Yeah. These guys are in the bloodline. So we'll see.
Yeah, they are. Yes, those are two men that are in the bloodline. That's right. And they're teaming against John Cena and LA Knight.
Yeah. Tell them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh God. This will be a great match.
Let me talk to him. Is he gonna talk to him?
I think he'll talk to him.
Let me talk to him.
I think he's gonna say yeah. I think he's gonna
Does he say let me talk to him, or is that a Eli Drake thing?
It might be an Eli Drake thing, I'll be honest.
I don't
maybe
think
it
he
is.
says, let me talk to you. Let me talk to him. Let me talk to you. He does the thing with his hand when they say L.A. Knight.
Oh, yeah, I do it too.
He used to do it, Eli Drake.
Yeah, I still to this day do it.
And he says dummy, but he didn't say, he says yeah, he doesn't say dummy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says yeah.
He says dummy, yeah.
No, he doesn't say dummy.
Oh, he used to say dummy, yeah.
Yeah. He used to say dummy, yeah, and then slap the button.
Yeah.
Right? No, yes, I know. He says yeah, but he doesn't say dummy, is what I'm saying. Yeah. He says yeah, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's what he said. He
Yes.
doesn't say dummy anymore.
Yeah.
Yes. Just say yes.
Correct.
So
Correct.
yeah.
There, I will stop
Right.
this by saying correct.
Right.
Speaking of tedious and too long, last man standing match, Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura at this PLE. I cannot wait for my favorite thing in WWE to hear referees count to 7. Man. We'll freaking count him.
I thought this shit was
5.
over when he just
I thought so too, man. Nothing fucking ends. It's all it
beat
keeps
Nakamura
This is the
clean
hot
last
company.
time.
How is this the fucking hot company? How are you losers in AEW fucking losing to these guys? What are you doing? This is what's beating your ass? Are you kidding me? Come on. God. What? A last man standing match with Seth Rollins and Shinsuke Nakamura.
He beat him clean
He
last
beat him
time.
clean
What's
as a
the
fucking sheet.
justification for this?
Clean as a
Why?
fucking sheet. Yes, he
Why
did.
are we doing this again? He beat him clean with a broken back. Like what's the justification?
Right,
for
Shinsuke said
another
your
match?
back is broken. Seth said you are right, my back is broken. Then he beat him clean with his move.
Yeah, he never wins Nakamura.
5. Count it. 6. Can't wait.
7.
Gonna be great. 7. God, stay down. Stay down. I can't. I'm. It's gonna be
Seth Rollins as portrayed by Beavis. Count him. Yeah, count him. Count him.
WWE Women's Title Triple Threat match. Io Sky defending the title against Asuka and Charlotte Flair. Because the constant of any women's title match in this company over the last decade is that two people that have a natural rivalry will face each other, but then also Charlotte Flair will be in that match for no reason.
Well, wait till Vince gets a load of Tiffany Stratton.
Oh my God! Yeah, he's gonna tell Charlotte to hit the fucking bricks.
Right?
He's got a new one. Yeah,
It's gonna be that meme where he's looking at Gary Stridham, where he's like impressed and then more impressed and then falling off the chair impressed. You know the Vince meme?
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's gonna be Vince. Someone needs to make one with Tiffany Stratton. That's gonna be it for Charlotte.
I wonder, do you think they've deliberately not shown him Tiffany yet? Because she'd main event WrestleMania this year if he had a chance. That's like everything that he's ever wanted in a women's wrestler, all put together right there with Tiffany.
It is.
It's a power lifter, muscles, blonde.
Power lifter?
She used to be. Now she's a little more.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that her background?
Yeah, she used to be pretty big into that. But yeah, she's got the muscles. She's got gigantic breasts, which also help.
Are we talking about the same person? Tiffany Stratton is a power lifter with
She
muscles?
used to be. She's got pretty big muscles. Yeah, you gotta look at her a little bit more. She's got pretty big. She's not as big as she used to be. She's slimmed down a little bit, but enough.
All right. Okay.
And then giant boobs and blonde, and it'll work. It'll work well for him.
We forgot. Asuka, the Empress of Tomorrow, is on NXT Tuesday too.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So there's Charlotte Flair, Io, and Asuka. I'm sure that will be a dandy of a triple threat match. Also on this Roadblock end of the line show, Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits versus LWO, and that is it. It's just Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits versus the LWO.
All right. I don't have anything to say.
I'm trying to think what I could possibly say to fill
lie
in
to
even
listen,
a half a second of time of LWO versus Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. All I know is this is the company that's just wiping the floor with AEW, and I'm stunned and shocked. And we lost the war, Joe. It's all over. So, and then finally, WWE Raw tag team titles and the WWE SmackDown tag team titles. The Judgment Day, Damian Priest and Finn Balor versus Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso.
Yeah. I'm sure there's plenty of people really excited. Vroom, vroom. Roadblock. End of the line.
Absolutely.
I mean, maybe it'll be all right. I don't know.
So I guess Stratton was more of a gym. Stratton was more of because people are correcting me as more of a gymnast, but she did a lot of lifting though too. Well, not power. She's pretty.
I don't think she was a weightlifter.
I think she.
I don't think I don't think she lifted weights. I don't think she was a weightlifter. Thinking of
what's her face? What's the fuck? She's doing the makeover now on they put her in leather now, and now it's supposed to be like, oh my god, she's like a fish out of water with her leather. What the hell's her name? Your least favorite person on Earth.
Oh god, that could be a number of people.
No, the NXT girl that you hate more than anybody. Like your least favorite wrestler on planet Earth.
Oh my god, that the little fucking the one for
name now. Yeah.
The hell's her name?
I'm so glad I don't remember her name, and I don't want to remember her name. It's so good. It's not Ivy Nile. It's not.
Little gremlin. No,
yes.
I like Ivy Nile.
Yeah, I keep thinking of Ivy Nile. It's not Ivy Nile because Ivy Nile.
The little gremlin that was in Chase U.
Yes. And now the chat room has nothing. Thea Hale. There it is. Thank you.
Oh fuck yeah, Thea Hale. Yeah, no. Now she's not a kid anymore.
No. She's an adult. Yeah. So then JC Jane. What did you used to call her?
Toxic Attraction 3.
Yeah, Toxic Attraction 3 is taking her for a makeover. So
yes.
This is the bullshit that AEW is looking at and going, we need more of this. This is how we're going to win this war. It's more of this. So JC Jane, Toxic Attraction 3 takes Thea Hale to a makeover, and then they do, they go. And she's not so sure about it. By the way, it's probably on YouTube if you want to see it. It's fucking deplorable.
She's not a kid anymore. Really.
Yeah, she's not a kid anymore. But it took her a little while because JC's like, we got to get you new clothes. You can't be just wearing these college gear all the time. So she takes her and Thea goes, no. I don't want to try anything out. I'm too nervous. I just want to wear what I was wearing before. And JC Jane's like, no, you're an adult now. You have to wear real clothes. And then they do this fashion show, and Thea Hale comes out, and she's got like a dress on, and JC Jane's like, yeah, and JC Jane's like, it looks good, I like it, and Thea Hale's like, it's not me, I don't like it, and then she goes back. But then, Joe, you're never gonna believe this. A couple minutes in, she starts to have fun a little bit. She starts to say, you know what? I like this. Look at this skirt that I'm wearing. And JC Jane's going, yeah, that's more like it. That's what it's like. Dude, it's fucking awful. Like, I'm describing it exactly how it is. And then she starts feeling herself a little bit, and then she comes out and she's wearing leather. And even JC Jane's like, whoa, that's too much. And that's the comedy, is now she's full on like wearing leather. And I think she had like some Instagram thing where she's like, it's not a phase, dad, or whatever. This is NXT, by the way. This is what's going to wipe the fucking floor with AEW next week, right?
You sure sound like someone who doesn't watch NXT, Rich.
I prepped. I prepped in front of No Mercy, baby. All right.
I think somewhere in there while you were describing that, the Fightful account said, I'm loving these Thea Hale segments.
Right. This is hilarious. Cry emoji, cry emoji, cry emoji. Hashtag NXT.
Yeah. Listen, here's the thing though. don't worry for all you Thea Hale lovers out there. She still makes really annoying faces and
right.
sounds.
While she's wearing leather, she makes funny faces, and
that hasn't gone away. Like, she still makes these really stupid faces and her eyes bug out and she makes weird gremlin-like sounds. So that hasn't gone away. You still get all of that in the Thea Hale package. Now she's ripped. She may have been a powerlifter.
No. Okay. I want you to apologize to me. So maybe she wasn't, she was into bodybuilding, very heavy into bodybuilding. Look at Tiffany Stratton from 2-3 years ago. Much more muscular than she is today. I posted a pic in the No-Dose chat room if anybody wants to see it. This woman was very much into muscles and bodybuilding and powerlifting and that sort of stuff a couple of years ago. So just want to point that out.
Listen, I'm sorry, Rich. I'm doing my own research.
Okay, do your own research. Follow her. Scroll. You'll see. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, go ahead, knock yourself out.
Yeah, powerlifter though. I don't.
Maybe
know.
not powerlifter. Maybe powerlifter is not the correct term, but she's pretty big.
They're all these broads come from the fitness world, right? Isn't that what they do? They
sort
do
of
fitness competitions.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway,
yeah, she's kind of ripped in some of these pictures.
Yeah, see what I'm saying?
She was a gymnast.
You've always said that those are the people to try to get.
Yeah, they should definitely, the gymnast pipeline is not exploited nearly enough in pro wrestling.
But just want to note that one of the reasons I also watched that Thea Hale, JC Jane thing was Sue Williams wrote a great piece about it, MJF. He's not mad, he's disappointed. A MJF column up at voiceswrestling.com, by the way, right now.
Looks like Straton at one point was dating Axel Dieter Jr. or whatever his WWE name is. I don't know his name. Can't remember his name. Oh, Ludwig Barcel. Ludwig Kaiser, right? Ludwig Kaiser?
Yeah, Ludwig Kaiser.
Yeah. I don't know how old this is, but I'm doing my own research, Rich.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Gotta do some research on that. But there you go. So that
handsome fella. I could understand it.
Ludwig, yeah.
A handsome guy, right?
Nice
classic
hair.
Chiseled good looks.
Yeah, nice hair.
Nice haircut. Good haircut's key. Gotta have a good haircut.
Was dating him, though. Not doesn't appear that they're an item anymore.
They're on the outs, huh?
I don't know. I'm asking you. You seem to know it all, so I'm asking you.
I don't know. I found an article. I don't know if it's
okay.
Still... Yeah. You know, these kids.
Yeah, these whirlwind romances. Yeah.
Love is fickle.
Hot young people, they do their own thing. Anyway.
A lot of fish in the PC. That was bad. I apologize.
Oh, God, I just got it.
That was really bad.
That was real bad, yeah.
Can you cut that out? Can you edit it?
Yeah, I might. Yeah, I might put a timestamp on there. There's a lot of things we get through, but that might not. I'm going to put a...
That's pretty lame.
2:44:19. Got it. All right.
A lot of fish in the PC.
That's pretty terrible, yeah.
That's pretty bad.
Anyway.
No, fuck that. You know what? That's a good joke.
That is not bad.
The more I think about it, I bet that produced a few chuckles out there.
Yeah, for sure. It maybe took a little bit, like it took for me, but maybe a few people got. Anyway, let's talk about New Japan Destruction in Ryogoku. We got the Sumo Hall show coming up this weekend, October 9th. It is unfortunately main evented by Sonata and Evil in a lumberjack match. Joe, you're going to try to get me excited about this match. Why don't you try? See what you can do.
Well,
try your best.
If you listened to my 4-hour flagship a couple of weeks ago, Rich,
I did not.
I know you were locked in on when you were in Holland, or wherever you were.
Norway. But...
I sold myself on this match by convincing myself that Evil should win. Fuck it. Just let's burn it down like Seth and just go Evil Naito for Wrestle Kingdom with all the accoutrements that go along with that, which means the House of Torture, which now includes my boy Yoshinobu Kanemaru. So we can get some whiskey spitting at the Dome. We can get a little bit of Show's wrench. All of it, Rich. So I am in full-on let's go Evil mode in Destruction and Ryogoku this weekend. Did I sell you on it?
No, you didn't, because these guys are going to wrestle for 36 minutes, and no one's going to react, and people are going to lie and say, "Oh no, it's actually over in the building," as we're watching, and no one makes any noise and stuff. So, yeah, I don't know, but whatever. Elsewhere on the show, junior heavyweight title: Hiromu, Mike Bailey, Lio Rush.
Yeah, but here's the thing: like half of these people have the flu, and we don't know who's going to be.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we should probably put a little asterisk here that everyone's sick in Japan right now with the flu, not this new wave of COVID that's spreading. No, it is the flu. So, will anybody? Leo's out, or Leo's been out, so maybe he's fine or not. Yeah, who knows? There's like a bunch of guys that are out, so who the fuck knows what's actually going to happen on this particular show? So. David Finlay versus Tama Tonga, never open weight title match. Joe, sell me on David Finlay versus Tama Tonga.
No.
Oh, okay. Never open weight 6-man tag team titles. You don't have to sell me on this. I'm excited about this one. Okada, Ishii, Tanahashi versus the Motor City Machine Guns and Josh Alexander. Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, and Josh Alexander versus Okada, Ishii, and Tanahashi. Count me in. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I love that they're defending these titles against these random ass teams. They defended against Makabe, Tenzan, and Tiger Mask in Korakuen Hall a couple of weeks ago, which was, a much better match than it sounds like on paper too. So yeah, I think that there's a big opportunity for Josh Alexander. He's got to be fired up for this. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This isn't a very good card.
It really is not. Yeah, as you kind of run it down, you're like, oh yeah, because that's about the business end of the card. Elsewhere, you got the New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Team titles: Bullet Club War Dogs, Coughlin and Kid versus Gorillas of Destiny, El Phantasmo and Hikuleo. Yep. I'm not going to ask you to sell me on that one. 6-man tag team title, best of 7 series, match number 7, Master Wato, Shota Umino, and Yuji Nagata versus El Desperado, Minoru Suzuki, and Ren Narita.
If necessary, right?
I guess.
I'm sure it'll be tied at that point. Well, the first match was a draw. So it's like, whoa, that's a curveball, right? And then some of the other matches like didn't even make tape. Like they're just in villages in front of 400 people. So I don't know where we stand here. I assume it's like 2-2-1 or something. No, it can't be 2-2-1. There would have to be another draw in there in the mix for them to be tied coming into this, right?
I think so. Let me see where we're at right now in this thing. Yeah, let's get the background of this best of 7 because people need to know. All right, so you had match number 1 was a 30-minute draw, like you said. Yeah. Match number 2, Strong Style 1, so they were up 1-0. Match number 3, the Wato, Umino, and Nagata team won, so we're 1-1. Number 4, Strong Style 1 again, so they're back up 2-1. Then Wato and Umino and Nagata won number 5, so 2-2. And number 6 has not happened yet. So 6
has to be a draw.
It's got to be.
Because why would
unless they're going to draw the best of 7 and then just and just say, wow, that was a fine little. Can they do that?
You can't draw the 7th match because someone will win because someone has to go up 3-2 in match number 6.
Yeah, but then I'm saying the other team could win. No, what I'm saying, no, sorry, a draw in the best of 7, as in one of the teams goes up 3-2 and then the other team goes 3-3, and at the end of it, the best of 7 is.
They could do that, but then you have to go into the match with one team's best outcome being a tie.
Right. Which is, I wouldn't do it that way. I would not do it that way. No, but
yeah, it's just weird psychology. So whenever that's 6 matches, head over to your online betting site and see if you can bet on a draw. I think that's the bet. That's the play.
IWGP Junior Tag Team titles. The War Dogs, another War Dog team, Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney versus Kevin Knight and Kushida. Mm-hmm. So it feels like a match I know it's only happened a couple times. It feels like I've seen that match like 12 times. But LIJ, Bushi, Shingo, Naito, Yota Tsuji versus the United Empire of Callum Newman, Great-O-Khan, Hanare, and Jeff Cobb.
Yeah. This is Newman's first tour.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So keeping an eye on him. He was the first guy eliminated in the big elimination tag at Korakuen. So he's getting his feet wet in the company. So sure looks like he's taking another pin in this one. But, Bushi's always sticking out like a sore thumb in these situations, too. So I'll just keep an eye on Callum Newman, see how he, the rest of these guys will be in,
And he's a guy we've talked about for years as well, that Will's had his eye on. Yeah. So, as Will's kind of either playing out the strings of this run or whatever, but he's a guy that he's always going to try to get involved in something, get him involved in spots and get him on shows and whatnot. So you talked about this before on a couple weeks ago on the flagship, so I won't go too much, but Yota Tsuji and Will Ospreay, fucking love that match. And Yota Tsuji, dude, if they wanted to have this guy main event of Wrestle Kingdom in like the next 2 years, he could absolutely do it. That dude has just got it in every way. He's fucking unbelievable. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
He's already 30, so you could see why he's getting pushed quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. Do it. Go ahead. Why not?
Yeah.
And he's blowing by like all these other dudes, all these other young guys. It's like, yeah, that dude. You see that guy and you're like, that's a star. That's a dude right there. He just got it. Those fucking teeth. His teeth are so big. They don't even fit in his mouth. How did his teeth get so big?
You love the teeth.
The teeth are amazing. They're medicine too.
They got to train that twin brother of his and get him in there.
He's got a twin. I didn't know he had a twin.
Oh, they did the show where.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. Duh. Yeah, he had. I forget about the twin. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a ruse, and then he was beating up at the twin brother. It wasn't even him.
Yeah, we could get some real. The twin doesn't have the same. I will say the twin's not quite there. I remember when they showed him.
Oh, you didn't know.
He was pale, and it was.
You didn't know until the real guy came out. You didn't know.
I remember. Yeah, no, it was tough to.
Then you were comparing the real guy.
Right. I guess you're right. When you see them side by side, you're like, oh yeah, that one clearly is Yota Tsuji, and that one's not. But I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
For some reason that I can't fathom here in Sumo Hall, Tonga Loa versus Chase Owens.
I don't understand.
What?
Why?
Who asked for this? Who asked for this?
Ryan Reynolds gif, but why?
Yeah, right.
Why?
House of Torture. Yeah, this is a shit show. Goddamn. Show Yoshinobu Kanemaru and Yujiro versus just five guys, Dookie, Taichi, and question mark, Joe. Who is the new just five guy?
What do you think? Yuya Uemura?
Yuya Uemura would be a good one. I don't know if I slot him in just five guys, though. I think I got bigger hopes for Yuya Uemura than just five guys. No offense to just five guys, but I don't think he's a fit. He doesn't strike me as a fit for them, but I don't know who does.
That's the smart money.
It's probably the right money. It probably is.
It's funny. When Kanemaru turned on them and left, I was like, oh, great. I dusted off my just four guys t-shirt.
Finally.
I was like,
you dug into the bottom of the drawer and said, finally,
yeah,
just four
I'm
guys.
Back in business. Yeah. And then look at this shit.
It's just four guys for now, and then on Saturday, Sunday, what the hell, late Sunday, there'll be just another fifth guy. So,
well, the flip side is we get to hear Charlton singing the song.
Yeah, that is true.
Guys, just five guys. Yeah, with the new guys debuting, right? Wyatt Russell or whatever his name is.
Walker Stewart is his name. Yeah.
Walker Stewart.
Is he starting this
Russell?
weekend? Yeah, Wyatt Russell, Walker Stewart, one and the same. Yeah, tomato for sure. You got it. Nailed it. Yeah, is he starting this weekend? I didn't know that.
I think so. Isn't he like 21?
I don't think he's that young, is he?
I think he's a kid.
Yeah, good for him. He's got a very booming voice if he's 21, but I guess I had a booming voice.
Oh, you've heard him call matches?
Yeah. Decent voice.
Where'd you hear him call match?
He called God damn, he is only 21 years old.
I told you he was a kid.
Wow. What did I see him in? I watched something from Reality of Wrestling, and he was the commentator. What the hell was I watching from them?
Oh, okay.
He's done a little bit. Yeah, he's bounced around a bunch of stuff. He was doing another thing. He was doing one of the other independent companies. I forget where it was. I'm sorry if I'm blanking on it, if it's an obvious company that everybody knows. I forget which one it was. But yeah, I remember that, and I definitely remember Reality of Wrestling he was doing before. What was I watching Reality of Wrestling for? I forget, but I can't believe, man, he's 21. Jeez.
They offered the job to one of the Noah guys. I don't know if they offered it to the guy or the guy that's in the other guy's pocket, but they offered the job to.
That I got to give all the that is a Kelly Harris from Jumping Bomb Audio. That is his thing. One time, just on without any. on our Voice of Wrestling Slack, he came in and said, "I'm listening to Noah. Who's the giant and who's the giant in the Giants?" Sorry, who's the giant and who's the guy that lives in his pocket? And it was just like, it's the best. And once I heard that, I've never thought of them in any other way, and it's so ridiculous. And once you hear it, it's over. So now it's over for all you, because we all told you this joke. But that's Kelly Harris, Jumping Bomb Audio, Comic Geek Kelly on Twitter if you want to follow him and give him all the credit. You can never unhear it. Who is the giant and who is the guy that lives in his pocket?
My stomach hurts.
It's so ridiculous, but so perfect.
I think of it every single time.
Every time. It's Stu Fulton and Mark Pickering. Yeah, Stu Fulton is the giant, and Mark Pickering is the one that lives in his pocket, I guess. But
I don't know which is which.
No, Stu Fulton's the giant. Yeah,
and Pickering's in his pocket.
Correct.
They did offer one of them the job. I read that in the Observer. I don't know which one. But
those guys have talked an awful lot of shit, so it'd be kind of tough to take the old bag. You know what I mean, from those guys. But they've They are in the professional wrestling business, so it's not that hard to take that bag after talking the shit. So, did you see that master cut of people? Somebody tried to dunk on Cody by master cutting all of his references to NXT and Wednesday Night Wars and all that sort of stuff, as if like, there you go, Cody. Like, what is it? And he gave the exact Cody response. He's like, why would I do this? Like, I love those guys. I had a great time starting some revolution. Just the most perfect Cody paragraph reply. And it's like, you can't dunk on this guy. He's a professional wrestler, man. He's a mercenary. He doesn't care. They thought they were going to dunk on him, and he was going to be like, oh boy, is my face red. I was making fun of NXT, and now I'm going to be on NXT. And it's like, this guy doesn't care. He's a mercenary, man.
They don't get it.
It's like a 2023 wrestling fan that's like, oh boy, look at this embarrassing thing. This guy put his foot in his mouth, and it's like, he doesn't care. Anyway. Oh, sorry. There's a pre-show Frontier Zone 10-man tag, but I don't know if that's even going to air. So,
what the hell's that? What is that?
I don't know what a Frontier Zone is. I was hoping you knew.
I guess it's some shindy. I don't know.
Is it? All right, cool.
Well, who are these assholes in the match? I never heard of these people.
I don't know who those dudes are either. Yeah.
Jun Masaoka, Kazuma Sumi, Kengo, Takahiro Katori, and Takeshi Masada. All right, let's throw one of these in the old cage match.
So I threw Kengo in there because Kengo seems like a guy who I could find. He wrestles in Freedoms. He wrestles in Heat Up, which is still around. Yes, Heat Up is still around. Tenru Project. Yeah, so that's just some shindy dude. He apparently did.
Takeshi Masada is some 22-year-old from DDT. So is Kazuma Sumi. These are young DDT guys. They might be decent then. I don't watch DDT. Takahiro Katori.
That guy sounds good. Sounds like a good name.
That sounds like a good name.
Yeah. That guy rules.
I
don't know if he rules or not, but he sounds like he rules.
Takahiro Katori. Am I spelling this right? I hate cage match. Hold on. Takahiro Katori. All right, let me try this again.
Okay, I looked him up. He works for Prominence, Freedoms. He did
anyone that works for Freedoms, I'm out.
He did an All Japan shot. A lot of Tenru projects. Something called Batos Cafe. That's never good.
He's probably he's the drizzling shit. I can tell you right.
Probably sucks. Yeah, this guy probably stinks. So, yeah, when you work in Batos Cafe or whatever the fuck that is, not good. Not good. I'm gonna.
Once I hear Freedoms,
I am about to subscribe to them on YouTube, though. I love subscribing to the worst Japanese shindies you can ever imagine.
Jun Masaoka is a 32-year-old freelancer Oh yeah, freedoms. Forget it. Yeah, no thanks.
So you're automatically out on all freedoms.
Freedoms is garbage. It's just junk. It's been junk for years. Freedoms 666 burst. Oh my god.
All caps burst? You're not an all caps burst guy?
Could you imagine the death threats we'd get for this segment if we did it 10 years ago?
Oh my god, yeah.
We'd get literal death threats if we did this segment 10 years ago. Thankfully, none of them listen anymore.
No, I hope. Well, yeah, there can't be any of them that listen anymore.
Half of them don't even probably watch wrestling anymore.
No. They all gave up for sure.
Oh, yeah, this is the grimiest guy of them all. Jun Masaoka here.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh. Some promotion called TTT Creation.
I got to subscribe to him on YouTube.
Total Triumph Team.
Okay.
Fuminari Abe worked one of their shows.
Oh, I don't know. I'm looking at this guy. He looks pretty good. He's like 32, so he's obviously not good, but...
Oh, the Brahmins worked that, but forget it.
You're always out on the Brahmins. Tell me more about this TTT Creation promotion. What do you got?
That's what I was just telling you.
Okay.
Have, hold on, let me see who owns it. This Total Triumph Team.
Are they on YouTube?
Guts Isojima owns it.
Okay. Well, I'm in. I'm going to subscribe to them right now. Oh, God, it's playing a video from them. I'm trying not to.
You found it?
I found them on YouTube, but I don't know if it's like just one video. It doesn't let me click it, so I don't know. All I can do is play the video, but I can't actually.
Apparently, Men's Teo is a champion in that promotion. He's
well,
got to be 60.
Now I'm in. Fucking now I'm in, dude.
He's 56 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got to be like 60.
Well,
Speeds of sound work there.
Sounds great. TTT Pro. I always love when these like shindy Japanese, their Twitter account is at TTT Pro 0125. It's like
just
random numbers. It's like, we need to just put 0125 at the end. Fuck it. Yeah, they're on YouTube.
Probably
at TTT Pro 0125. So
that's Guts Ishijima's fucking bank password.
I have now subscribed to them on YouTube, so there you go. They haven't uploaded a video in 3 years, so that's probably not good. Maybe I shouldn't subscribe to them, but anyway.
If you could get in his wallet, that's definitely his pin. Yeah, I don't know. Why? I don't know what the purpose of this is. Why they're giving these guys a match?
Yeah, I don't know. Frontier Zone. We got to figure out what Frontier Zone is, if that's a sponsor or something like that. But Jordan Smith says Frontier Zone sounds like a knockoff Six Flags. Like your town gets like a Frontier Zone. They're like,
yeah.
You're like, oh, cool, Six Flags. You're like, nah, it's a Frontier Zone. You're like,
Frontier Zone. Yeah. Just one death per summer.
right.
On average.
Right.
Right.
Rickety ass. They get the roller coasters that Six Flags has discontinued or retired or whatever due to safety issues and Frontier Zone. It's like, yeah, we'll buy that thing. Why not?
Yeah. Your parents tell you, listen, we're going to Frontier Zone Saturday. You can invite one of your friends, but they all decline.
Right? Nobody wants to go. Their parents won't let them go.
Yeah. They're like, oh, Frontier, no, I'm busy Saturday.
Right. The Shermaner says, so you guys aren't excited about the Freedoms GCW War Games match this weekend. Can you believe it? Coming up.
Yeah, I can't
Freedoms and GCW. We'll review that next week. I'm sure of it. Just listen in. Might be towards the end of the show, but listen to the entire show. I'm sure we'll get to it at some point next week. So,
can you imagine watching that?
No, I cannot, because I will not be watching that. No, I hate War Games matches. I hate GCW and I hate Freedom. So yeah, probably not going to go well.
Sounds like an awful
that seems like a bad idea for me to spend any amount of time watching that. But we'll talk about Bound for Glory next week. We've run out of time. I'm going to those shows, so we'll touch on that next week. We'll preview that. We'll hopefully have a whole card for Bound for Glory next week. But that's it. We're out of time here this week on the Flagship Podcast. Again, we mentioned at the top with Flagship, patreon.com/voicesofwrestling, voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon. Patreon's got a new update. Really much improved app, much improved layout, and those collections are a real great way to figure out everything we've done on Flagship Patreon since early or late 2017, I should say. We have been on there doing stuff. easier to find everything, easier to find TV reviews, easier to find retro series, easier to find written content, easier to find every single thing on our Patreon. That can all be done at patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling, flagshippatreon.com. As we mentioned, also voicesofwrestling.com for previews, reviews of all the stuff we talked about. I mentioned the Suit Williams MJF piece, which is spreading like wildfire. People are finding it, talking about it, discussing it. And like I said, it's kind of interesting that the worm has turned in a lot of ways with this MJF stuff, because I'm seeing a lot of people agreeing with Suit and starting to agree with us that, yeah, this stuff has jumped a shark, or whatever you want to say. This stuff has gotten way out of control. So great piece by Suit there up at Voices of Wrestling, and also everything on the Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network. Make sure you subscribe to the Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network on your app of choice, as well as every individual show that we have on the Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network as well. If you want to just listen to a particular show, each one has their own feed, so you can subscribe there and support them. But we definitely recommend subscribing to the entire feed as well, because there's a lot of great shows that are done every single week here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network. So now we are bidding you adieu, but as is customary around these times when we're doing these live shows, the Mike and JD show is going live right now, or it is live, I should say, on the Voice of Wrestling YouTube channel. So you can close out of our video and then go and watch the Mike and JD show. They go live every Thursday night right around this time. So they're live. You can listen to them. They do a great job. One of the great new additions that we have to the Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network. So make sure you subscribe to them as well. So that is Joe. I am Rich. We will talk to you next time on the Flagship Podcast. Take care.
Cheering at pro wrestling shows in Japan is back, and 2023 is already shaping up to be a big year in the history of pro res. That's why you should listen to the Emerald Flow Show. From the Royal Road to the Green Mat, Paul and Gerard take you into the world of All Japan Pro Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Noah. Not only do we analyze events, but we examine business, who is getting over, what angles are working or not. Occasionally, we take a look at other Japanese promotions like DDT and Zero One. So if you're looking for more coverage of the world of Japanese wrestling, check out the Emerald Flow Show on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, available on all of your favorite podcast apps.
Hello, Voices of Wrestling listener. Dave Ryan here. Have you ever wondered to yourself how many hidden gems are hidden away inside the last years of World Championship Wrestling? Have you ever asked yourself how many tenuous gags can be made about the name Mike Enos? And have you ever thought about what it sounds like for two Irishmen to interpret a very chaotic company through its B show? The answers to all this and more are just a click away. Check out Days of Thunder every second Thursday on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.